everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Here we go, getting ready to power through February. And here I was, almost having clawed my way out of January. Alex Navarro, how are you doing?
Wait, are you still in January?
January put me pretty underground, man.
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm working through January here. February kind of a blur. So yeah, yes, I think I might still be in January.
Well, good news. We actually canceled February. We're now experiencing long January.
Okay, it is warming up here a little bit. Brad Shoemaker, how's the weather by you?
The weather's all right. I think we're all digging a hole day by day, though.
Digging a hole day by day.
Talking about getting under things, or maybe perhaps it's more accurate to say a hole is being dug for us.
A game about
directly underneath our feet.
A month about digging a hole.
A century of about
a decade about digging a hole. Yeah, man. I think I'm finally starting to see a little bit of daylight. I really just need to get like my personal affairs back in order. Like, you know, stop my emotional eating, exercise a little bit more, kind of get Vinny back on track a little bit because Vinny got lost to the wind. Somebody cut the kite string to Vinny a little bit.
Very much hearing that.
Yeah, went flying away.
I'm on the good yo of the yo-yo right now.
Oh, okay.
You know,
okay.
If you've experienced the yo-yo pattern,
so you're on the good yo.
Yes, of the two yos, I guess I'm on the good one.
Okay.
Is that like the walking the dog movement, or is that like the, you know, kind of the seesaw back and forth? What are we talking about?
It was mostly a weight thing, let's say.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The holidays were unkind, but down like almost 10 pounds since then.
Congratulations!
So that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's I'm probably at the nadir of the yo-yo at this point. I've recognized that I'm out of string, and I need to start returning up.
Gotta get back to that upper yo.
Yeah, up back to that upper yo, and then, you know, like all things, it's just the managed. Maybe I'll keep the string shorter. It's very hard for me to keep weights consistent for me personally, but I've got a lot of weird knock-on things that come when I get to this point. Joint pain.
Yeah.
You heard about it?
You heard about it? It sucks.
Yeah.
But you know what doesn't suck?
I actually don't know right now, honestly.
Retreating to fantasy worlds where
yes.
You can be whomever you want to be. We had that Realis stream with Austin Walker. If you didn't check it out, you should go check it out. The archive is up. Austin, always an amazing GM. I'm always in awe at how quickly he pivots especially with his game Realis.
Of all the games he should be able to pivot relatively quickly on, the one he designed, I feel like, is the one. But he's good in just about any system.
I'm sure this is like DM 101, and there's an easy answer for this kind of question. But like at the time when we were in it, and it was like a pretty long session. It was like a 4-hour game, so like it went. There was a lot of material there. At the time, I was like, man, cannot believe how much he is just coming up with on the fly here. Like, this is incredible. And then afterward, I was like, I wonder how much the average DM actually pre-writes. Like, how much have they at least sketched out the basic arc of a thing before it starts? Like, surely he was not like making that entire chant up.
No. He said he did a lot of prep. And like maybe even more prep than he's used to, I think is what he said. But bless your DM, whoever they may be, because
tip your DM.
Your DM, because they definitely write more than you expect them to write and that you will ever see. I
was going to say, sometimes the things they want you to see, you just run immediately away from.
So I was just going to mention, in our last game that Alex and I are in, we were playing, and there's this named character, and we just like went up to them. We were like, nah, just like peace out. There's this other encounter that we just kind of were like, nah, we're just going to keep riding south, just pedal to the floor. And I did feel a little bad being like, man, I think we just blew by two somebody is doing the cliche thing of ripping pages out of the binder and just throwing them behind them.
To be fair, I think one of those was like intentional. I think the other one was a little bit more of like a randomly generated encounter. But the last time at the end of the session, when we got to our last randomly generated encounter, it felt very clear like, nah, you're going to fight this one, okay? You're going to do it.
Yeah.
You can handle this Hydra. You can do it.
I don't know if we can. We'll find out.
Oh, come on. I've got all my spell slots. It's fine.
I burned a lot trying to get away. My daughter, so speaking of tabletop stuff, there's a big tabletop section. For those who didn't listen, we should get a fair pitch to Austin's thing from Friday. That thing's awesome. Brad, I'd love to pick your brain about tabletop stuff because you don't play that much, but maybe we'll do it on the Ramblecast next week.
Because we will have had our next regular D&D session as well.
We can catch everybody up on our Hydra battle. We have another session that my family does probably about once a month, but my daughter, she's not as into it as I am and my son is. So we invited my son's friend to play. Mm-hmm. And he's a super great kid, super nice. But it's like one of those things that you got to get I don't know what to call it. Maybe other people who have DM more can tell me. You got to get your role-playing wigglies out. And I feel like if you've never played before, you have to get them out, and you have to realize that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Right.
Because you have all the possibilities in the world, right? And just because somebody walks in front of you doesn't mean you have to hit him in the side of the head with an axe, right? Just because you can, right? There's a little bit, and this was my thing when I was younger too, being like, well, what's to stop you from doing all of that stuff? Wasn't that
kind of like your approach to open world games too? Is like, well, I have to test the limits of this because you're giving me all these options, so I have to see what I can do.
Yeah, what'll happen, and that's exactly what happens in open world games with me. Is like, okay, you're not allowing this, or you are allowing this. But in D&D, it's like, I think new players, especially in D&D, and because it's structured this way, want to see what happens, right?
Right,
and.
Well, and also, they don't necessarily clock what the consequences can be for even a minor thing. Like, you remember when I started with your session, literally one of our player characters died.
Yeah. It was your fault.
It wasn't my fault.
I'm kidding.
I know. It wasn't actually my fault. But at the same time, I think that I really underestimated how fatal that fight could have been. And I think some of the choices I initially made were I don't know what the limits are here. I don't know what I actually should be doing. So I was just trying to figure stuff out.
So what was interesting, and the thing I'd love to talk to you, Brad, maybe on the Ramblecast more, is kind of embracing that collaborative storytelling part more than the I'm winning part, right?
Right.
Which is as a adult tabletop player, I think I just enjoy now even more when the stuff goes poorly than when it goes in my favor. Of course I want to do well, but there's a real drama when you get something that didn't go your way and have to figure it out when you're with a very good GM or DM who's not there to punish you for that. And I really enjoy that now, that part of oh crap, how are we going to get out of this? Especially, if you're playing with a bad GM, they're just going to pounce on that, and that's not fun. But
they're just going to say a boulder fell on your head, and that's it.
Yeah, there was definitely a point in that game where it was the point where I felt like the game activated. It was oh man, everything's popping off now. Now we have a challenge to overcome. But it all spawned off of one very innocuous thing I did. I just tried to cast a spell to gather intel or something. You remember? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was the skeletal dead ship. You're trying to gather intel on what that thing was.
When the dead ghost fish spaceship came to life, started killing everyone. All of that spawned off of just me doing some basic scrying kind of thing, and I just want to try to peer into the past and see what this thing used to be before whatever, and he the point is he found a way to pivot off of a very innocuous action to make everything go real sideways.
Yeah, and sideways is I think where I enjoy the stuff the best these days, where it's not quite all falling in your favor. You're not getting all 20s,
Speak for yourself, man. I'm here to tell a story, all right?
You want to be 20s all the time.
I'm here to tell the next great American novel through D&D. Or Realis or whatever.
Or whatever it is. So people should go check that out again. That archive is up now.
Yeah,
really fun.
Do you DM your family game that you're talking about?
No, we pay a DM to come. Okay. He's amazing. He's a great DM. Fantastic. And we pay him so that I can play with the game. Though, I don't know.
Would you want to?
DM my family's game
or a game is that something you had interest in?
Yeah, I did with my I used to play with my brothers and my dad would play but that game kind of petered out. I enjoy it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Sometimes it's fun just to have somebody else tell you where you're going to go and then poke at all the systems and not have to worry about how you're breaking it. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's fun. You know, it's got its own rewards.
The reason I asked was because I was going to then ask if you would be willing to DM a Realis game because it's such an unusual system.
That one made me nervous even reading this stuff. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I've got the chops for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the thing I found reading about Realis was that there was a lot to absorb, but like honestly, once we got into it, within like I'd say in less than an hour, I felt like I clocked kind of like the way I should approach the mechanics at the very least. You know, even if I don't necessarily know every subtle way that I should be trying to push up against like the rule set or whatever, I felt like I could do things pretty quickly, or at least have ideas for things pretty quickly. And I think that is probably the sign to me of a good one of these kind of tabletop games, is that yes, there's a density of information, but you can just kind of hit the ground running as long as you understand the basics.
I think what I would want, Brad, is more of and Austin has said this is coming, more of a tips for DMing in Realis, and
because this is just an Ashcan release. This isn't even like the full thing that's going to come out,
and even like a bigger, more elaborate setting book, so that I don't know if I'm ready to build a whole world in that. I think I would almost be like, give me a splat book or some kind of campaign to run in it with tips and guides to be like, okay, here are these pre-made characters. Here's what their sentences are.
Right.
Here's what happens if you meet them. Here's how they would react. Because you know, I feel like Austin was the source book on that stuff, and he just had it all, which is his gift.
But I think even he hasn't necessarily written lore for every single of the 1,000 moons or anything like that. Like, I think the approach seems to be that, you know, there will be a certain amount of like built-in lore, but obviously with tabletop, you can always rewrite that stuff, do whatever you want. But I have to imagine there's going to be a lot of like fan-made and other like type expansions that come along that are just like, hey, we wrote 500 moons of this particular flavor and style, you know, like we give you all this extra stuff if you want to play around with it.
Yeah. It's a cool system.
Yeah. Look, I like language.
I always have fun playing with Austin Walker.
Yes.
Should make it
except when he's killing my character.
When I survive.
None of us died.
Yes. Well, we kind of ended on a cliffhanger. I assume we all died.
Yeah, I don't know.
Except for Brad's character.
Lugartha seems pretty powerful now.
Yeah. Went on to fulfill their destiny.
I gotta put a saddle on that worm and ride it through the cosmos.
Right.
It's interesting to me. And I you know, look, I don't read too much of this. I think it's very funny that like this is your first tabletop experience in a long time, Brad, and the first thing you do is just like, I want to be a JRPG villain.
Like it kind of went from that to like Palpatine.
Yeah.
Over the course of filling out the character.
That's good. It's,
schemer, manipulator.
So that was super fun, and I appreciate Austin's time as well, because that's
absolutely.
Those things are time intensive, especially when you're doing the prepping for it like he did. And shout out again to all the great DMs out there and GMs out there. We got some other stuff to talk about this week, including games. Anything else you guys want to get to before we just jump right into it?
No. I ate some toast before this and then realized after the toasting process was complete, we didn't have enough butter.
What
do you do?
Dry toast.
Do you have cream cheese?
We do have cream cheese. I considered it.
Jam?
Okay. Yeah, jam.
No bagels. I just cream cheese on regular sliced bread. I just can't do it.
No, you never
jelly?
Can't do it.
Cream cheese and jelly.
Or just jelly.
On a bagel, sure.
You can have jelly on toast. I do it all the time.
No, jelly's fine. It's the cream cheese on. I mean, look, I had 5 minutes.
Fair.
Sure. So did you just shove dry toast in your mouth?
I just ate some slightly dry toast.
Okay. What are you
I'm not
do?
opposed to it. I've eaten dry toast. I can live that way.
Marmalade. Nutella.
Yeah, apple butter. We're out of apple butter.
Jeez. Well, I mean, if you had apple butter, you'd put that on first, right?
Yeah.
Butter is that's secondary.
Yeah, butter is an inherently inferior butter to apple butter.
Mayonnaise.
I thought about putting some mayonnaise on. Honestly, I was like, you know what? I just need a fat. I just need a lubricant here.
You're shaking your head, Alex. Mayonnaise?
No, mayonnaise. If you're making like a BLT or something, sure, but just mayonnaise on toast is like I can't. Maybe
Just pretend something fell off, and you're like, oh, it's mayonnaise. Mustard? Nah.
No. On regular
Ketchup?
bread, maybe.
Ketchup? No.
Not even 10 in the morning. A little early for
Pickle relish?
Relish?
I'm just thinking of the worst things I can think of to put on dry toast at this point.
Okay. Yeah. I'm mayo and just put like a slice of cheese on there, and then
Vegemite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't like Vegemite, but I also don't like Nutella. I think Nutella.
What?
I do not.
Oh my God.
Okay,
I'm
you're an
not
insane person, but it also is one of the most unhealthy things you can eat. So I could at least lean in that direction.
I mean, it's not great for you. It's not that bad, is it?
It's pretty unhealthy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Brad. I don't know if it's that unhealthy. I mean,
It's pretty unhealthy.
I think there are worse things you can eat.
Oh, certainly.
Are there worse things you could spread on your toast?
Vegemite.
That are unhealthy. I don't know if Vegemite's unhealthy.
I actually have no idea what the health content of that is.
Just pure lard.
Just pure lard.
Lard, I think, is worse.
Okay, maybe
Bacon grease.
just sopping up in bacon grease. What is that? Is that Texas toast? Isn't that Texas
That's
toast?
basically what. I mean, Texas toast is, I think, a specific kind of bread.
Yeah, it's a
that
specific
thicker bread,
spongy,
though, right?
thick bread. Yeah.
But don't you just like then put it in like bacon grease? And
Yeah, pretty much.
Probably.
Yeah. Hey, okay. So I ain't wagging my finger.
Listen, everything's bigger in Texas, including the heart attacks.
The bread as well.
Mhm.
All right, let's jump into the video games here.
There are several.
Brad,
Yeah.
Monster Hunter Wilds, dry toast or buttered toast?
It's like, maybe Monster Hunter Wilds also could use just a tiny bit more butter.
Oh, okay.
I
This
like
is our
it.
new system now.
Yeah,
okay.
I like Monster Hunter Wilds so far. I don't know if I love it so far.
Well, real quick
Okay.
here, just at the top, how much World did you guys play?
I think I put probably about 15 hours into World, if I remember.
Okay.
I got to the second major like continent type area of World.
I played enough to learn my weapon pretty well.
Okay.
Which
one?
I was used. Is that like weird, complicated one that transformed?
That's actually like 4 of them.
Yeah.
I have been reminded recently.
Yeah, it was like
let's see, the switch axe, the charge blade, the insect glaive also has some weird stuff to it.
I think it was the switch axe.
Switch axe, okay.
And was cool, and I felt really good about it. And I learned enough of the tutorials, but enough to where I was like, I like this, but I want to play this with more people, and everybody else has kind of dispersed.
Yeah, and you got to jump through all those weird pirate ship hoops to get into a party with people.
Yeah, and I just wanted to cook more food with my cat.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Palico?
Palico. I did not think to cook food yet, actually.
Oh.
I don't know what the food cooking animation is like in this yet. I should have done that.
So the servers are now currently down for you?
So I can still play. I was worried. Yeah, they took the multiplayer servers down after the review embargo lifted on Monday, and I was worried I just wouldn't be able to play it anymore. But thankfully, even with all of the servers offline, it's still letting me play single player just fine.
Okay.
And in fact, even will populate some of the multiplayer features with AI. If you're in such a situation and you can't summon real people to your game, so
okay,
you're not even really losing features other than the ability to play with actual people when the servers are down.
So when the servers were up, because this is probably the most thing I'm curious about, when the servers were up, did you send out a flare? Did you?
Yeah, but I didn't get anybody.
You didn't? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's only, excuse me, it's only really been in the hands of reviewers, so it was very scattershot. Like, is anybody online at the exact same, the probably few dozen people playing this worldwide on these servers? Is anybody actually around right now?
So you were mostly going around solo?
Yeah, I haven't actually grouped with anybody yet. So I've just like looked at the menus for the online features, but have not actually well, I did like browse. There's lobbies. Okay, there's 2 tiers of online thing. There's like lobbies you can get in, which I think just lets you like communicate with whoever else is in the lobby and like group up with them easily. And then there's also a concept of, I can't remember the term for it. It's like guild or squad kind of thing.
Okay.
It has like a name on it and a number of like a cap on it. It's like, oh, there can be 50 people in this one or whatever.
Okay.
And so there were several of those existing that I was able to browse. I did not join one. They had made one for reviewers. It looked like Capcom made it.
Oh,
The comment on that one was something along the lines of, "Come on, IGN, give it a 10."
Okay, like funny, but
It was
yeah.
very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I did not take it seriously.
Of course,
And
one
that may
should
not that may not have been written by Capcom. It could have been written by
So we're not casting aspersions here.
another member of the press or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I took it in the joking spirit in which it was clearly intended. But I'm trying to think where to start with this. Like, I know this sounds super reductive, but it is definitely one of those. Like, it is absolutely still a Monster Hunter. Like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't think anybody was expecting.
Not really. Well, after that demo I saw at Summer Game Fest last year, I did wonder, like, oh, it looks like they're like kind of modernizing this in a lot of ways. Like, is it going to feel like a fundamentally different game? And the answer is no. Like, it very much still at the core is like, if you played a lot of World, like the core hunting, very familiar.
Is it still very zone based for the hunt?
That stuff's a little more open now. So I haven't played World since the year it came out, so I can't say for sure, but I feel like I remember, didn't you still kind of load in and out of a town? Like, you would be in the town and then you'd kind of like hit a loading screen before you got out into an area to go hunt.
I mean, like, you mean your base, like the main,
yeah, like
main
your
base,
kind of base camp. Like, I think there were loads there.
Pretty sure there were.
The reason I ask is now there are not. Like, now, like, your base camp is just part of the world. Like, you run in and out of the base camp into an open world seamlessly with no loading.
Gosh, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe you're right that there was very clear delineations between where your base was and where the hunt began. Yeah,
my first Monster Hunter was on the 3DS. Monster Hunter Generations, I think, is maybe the first one I started with. Like that, you know, the handheld Monster Hunters were incredibly segmented. You know, like a map, quote unquote, would actually be like, you know, 12 different loads between little submaps or whatever. So they've completely done away with that now. Like, there are still other like biomes that you load into. Like, the first map is a giant desert kind of thing, which is quite big. But then there's a forest that you go to pretty quickly after that, and that is a load into another area, to be fair.
Okay.
But the big maps are pretty big, and like I said, the actual base camp with all the speaking story characters, and also you can set up your own little camps out in the world. That's all seamless now. You can just like run in and out of town as if it's kind of an open world game.
Can you do the monsters just like leash back to wherever? Like, you can't like kite a monster too far away, like all the way back to town, and have everybody just attack it. I doubt it.
I mean, everybody in the town is like, you know, standing exactly where they're, you know, programmed to stand, not moving around.
I would assume they just leech back to wherever
I doubt those NPCs are capable. Also, actually, they kind of put it up in like in a cave at the top of a big cliff.
Okay.
With a little pathway leading down, so it would be very tough for the monsters to even get up there, to be fair.
Which weapon did you choose?
I'm back on my charge blade bullshit.
Okay.
Again, which is the other of the two sword and shield, or actually, I don't know if the switch axe has a shield to it. But the charge blade and the switch axe are both swords that transform into axes.
They're pretty cool.
That's Monster Hunter. There are at least two different examples of a sword that transforms into an axe.
Do they have like a pretty decent training area? Because I feel like Worlds did, where you could learn the combos pretty easily.
There's some decent onboarding in this. Like, at like 5 minutes into the game, you got an NPC just asking you like, "Hey, how do you like to fight?" It's actually like a questionnaire dialogue tree. It's just like they ask you like 3 questions about how you would like to pursue a fighting style.
How do you want to
like,
get in there?
Yeah, and then they're like, "Hey, why don't this is probably the best weapon for you based on your answers." So like, that's cool.
Okay.
Another thing. It's got a long onboarding with like graphics options and all kinds of stuff. I think other games have done similar things. I want to say like Jedi Survivor had something similar, but I love the way they present the UI controls on this, because they literally just have, I think they call it living room mode and desk mode, or like couch mode and desk mode. I think it's living room mode. It's literally just like, hey, how big should the UI be and how should it be framed? Based on, are you sitting at a desk, you know, 18 inches or 2 feet in front of a monitor? Or are you sitting on a couch like 10 feet away from a TV?
Okay.
And so I've been playing in the living room, so I picked living room mode, and like it scaled the UI, because there's like so many games with subtitles or button prompts that are just like impossible to see from 10 feet these days.
Totally.
So like I really appreciated them taking that into consideration. It's like, yeah, some people are going to be playing this at a desk. I'm on the PS5 version, but like that was a nice little piece of onboarding as well. But yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say sometimes they'll do that when you do controller or mouse and the UI will change. Yeah. But like that doesn't mean anything, because you could absolutely be playing with a controller at your PC.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, what are some other quality of life? So you've got a mount now, which is basically like, it almost literally is a chocobo. It's like kind of a giant lizard, but it does have feathers. It's very chocobo-like.
I'm sure I'll be able to customize that with amazing cosmetics.
I just recently unlocked the ability to customize your sacred.
Okay.
That thing, not my favorite to control. It runs on its own,
Oh,
Like you did. If you play it, you'll get the hang of it eventually. But the thing really has a mind of its own.
is it useful in combat?
Kind of. Like, you know how monsters, when they're like pretty damaged, they'll kind of run off and sulk somewhere else and you have to chase them down. You can just hit a button now when that happens, and that thing, your mount will literally just take you to the monster again. Like, you kind of actually don't have to steer.
Oh.
Like, you can control the speed by hitting buttons to like speed up and down, but it'll actually just path you to.
Even if you didn't like hit it with like a tracking?
No, yeah, it's just automatic.
Weird. Okay.
And you can jump off the mount to mount the monster and do extra damage that way. You can use your like your sling, your kind of ranged attacks from the mount.
We should be clear, and I feel like I don't have to, but we should be clear that we are not Monster Hunter experts, right?
No,
Because there will be people listening to this that it'll be like Monster Hunter experts. So like, don't get too angry.
No, I mean, look, I think for any of us, basically, Monster Hunter World probably was our like entry point to like
the
caring about these games, honestly.
Like you said, Brad played the mobile ones. Or the
I think it was Generations is the one I played, and I previewed a couple of like PSP ones at GameSpot ages ago or whatever. But
World, like Monster Hunter Curious for a while.
Yes, yeah, like World is the one I definitely sunk the most time into. So like, apologies if anything I say in this is like, oh, they've changed this or they've added this cool quality of life thing, and it actually was in World. Please forgive me.
I will say the thing that is probably the most interesting to me, 20,000 foot view of Monster Hunter, before you continue, Brad, with the specifics here, is TGS being like, what the fuck is that line? And somebody being like, oh, that's Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
that's
where the real shit is going down.
That's that's the Monster Hunter line.
Oh, yeah.
You don't fuck with that shit when you're at TGS.
Like that
I was like, what's a Monster Hunter?
Yep. 100%. That was just like, man, that is the franchise for lunatics who I don't understand why people play those games, but go with God.
Yeah.
And that was very much in a pre Dark Souls, like understanding long, stiff animation priority types of action games world,
Yes.
Because Monster Hunter kind of was Dark Souls before Dark Souls in the way it controls.
But there was a fandom there that I think had yet to really hit mass market in the United States.
Again, until World came along, I really feel like that franchise was mostly for lunatics. And I mean, look, granted, some of that is colored by my perception of knowing Ryan Davis, who was maybe one of the biggest critics of those games in the early days and got an absolute fucking deluge of shit from the fandoms of those games because he thought they were kind of middling. I actually have always wondered what Ryan would have thought of the glow up for this franchise. Like, would he have maybe taken to it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has taken moving on to the big consoles with the increased capabilities and the better quality of life they can offer there. It has taken that for most people to get it, right? I think that's what it needed was like, it was kind of a grind getting into it on the handhelds with all the limitations that imposes, But then here we are. Monster Hunter World was the biggest launch Capcom ever had, right? So those people were right in the end.
And Capcom is doing well these days. Like, they are funneling, budget and resources into these big franchises that they have, and it seems like it's mostly working.
Yes, Capcom has been firing on all cylinders for a while, I think.
So sorry, I didn't mean to derail the Wilds comparisons to Worlds, but so you're finding it very similar to Worlds.
It's pretty similar. I mean, I'm trying to there's a whole laundry list of like mental checklist stuff I'm going through of other quality of life stuff. Like I think when you go to the kind of blacksmith lady to upgrade your stuff, like they have made that even more streamlined in terms of pointing you to what you might want to be doing there.
Okay.
Like she full on now will just give you still got your giant tree of like, here's the 8 different weapons you can make and all the branches off of those paths to other subtypes. Like if you want the full thing. But she also will just be like, hey, here's everything you can make right now. Like, here are the things you have the mats to make and are better than what you are using right now. Like, and that's just a little condensed sub list that's much easier to just scroll through there and see what you might want to make. So it's a lot of stuff like that. It's a lot of like recommendations and filtering large lists of options into more condensed lists of options, like stuff like that.
Like maybe for someone like me not to get just lost in the weeds.
Yeah. But I mean, there's still a ton of stats and text and menus and lists to take in everywhere you look. Like the density is definitely still there.
I know this is not really under your purview here, but like, did you see reviews come out? Are reviews up?
Yes, reviews went up on Monday. I glanced at scores briefly.
They seem mostly positive.
It's pretty positive. It's an
being
89.
well received.
Yeah, 89 right now, which is quite good.
Okay.
It has what the couple of reviews I read, I got the feeling that's like everyone's sort of just like, yep, they didn't reinvent the wheel because that last game was such a huge hit, but here are some new things they are like. It did not seem like anyone was like over the moon about it, but generally Monster Hunter fans seem to like it.
Yeah, like I'm deep in enough now that I have seen the same fight that they demoed at Summer Game Fest. If you remember last summer when I came back talking about it, there was like, it's this huge bombastic fight against a huge monster in the middle of this giant desert sandstorm. It's got this massive lightning storm. And like, at the time when I saw that demo, I was like, man, are there just going to be like crazy, like emergent weather effects that can happen in the middle of hunts that just like,
yes, I remember you being curious about that. Yeah.
Because like the idea that like, oh, you could just hit a sandstorm in the middle of a fight and it could change everything that's happening was really exciting to me. Having seen that now in the actual game, like that's a big story beat, actually. Like that sandstorm is something that is built up to for like 3 hours of game time.
Okay.
Before
like it's coming.
Where like the native village nearby is like they have a name for that sandstorm. It happens once a year, you know, it's like, oh, like a time of plenty will follow when the storm has passed. Okay. We have to prepare the village for it. Like I'm sure there will be more big weather events and stuff later on, but it's not as dynamic as I thought it might be. After that preview, it's much more like, hey, this is a big story beat boss fight that we have like scripted to be cool.
Right. But there is dynamic weather. It's just maybe not as like cataclysmic.
Well, I haven't seen any yet. That's the only real big weather thing I've seen so far. So I actually don't know if that can happen dynamically or not.
I think I saw in the previews they said like,
I hope so. Yeah.
Like be on the lookout for dynamic weather. Brad, I did bring up a little like bullet point list of stuff that I would like to ask you about if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, because I'm going to pick the silliest things here that things that might be new in Wild. Palicos can speak human languages.
Is that new? That's one of the things.
That's what this thing is listing.
I spent way too long in the character creator, but that's one of the things when you make your Palico is a checkbox for feline language, which really just means meowing.
FELYN.
Yes. I turned on feline language because it's way funnier when the cat just meows constantly than actually talking like a human.
Very cool.
But that is in there. I wasn't sure if that was new or not.
They're listing this as new here. It says that mount can have a second weapon on it.
You can equip 2 weapons now, which I haven't done just because like learning one weapon is so all consuming in those games that like I what do I have? I think I've got one of the like ranged weapons in the other slot, but I've never actually switched to it. But yeah, you can totally bring 2 weapons now.
I mean, I guess if you have like that glaive, which is, you know, like that's that range tagging weapon.
The onboarding, like I said, when I did the interview with the lady and gave some answers that I thought I would enjoy, she came back with insect glaive.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Yeah, that's my understanding is like that's the hard one.
I remember that being like a complicated one.
Yeah.
The link system, is that the partying up system?
That might be right.
Okay.
That might be what it's called.
They were listing that here. Crossplay, which I had forgotten that wasn't in Worlds at launch. Did
I guess
it ever
it
come?
wasn't. I don't. Maybe not. Probably not.
The rest of the stuff here is pretty like I think you'd have to be way into the hunting stuff here. A lot of combat stuff. And
actually,
focus mode and charge.
Yeah, focus mode is actually really interesting. I would assume injuries aren't new. Like when you attack a certain body part a lot, you'll see like a big wound open up.
This is listing that as different.
Okay, so I'm sure wounds have been in there for ages in different forms, but in this case, when you open a wound up, and I think it'll pop a message when it says you do, but you can see a giant gash on the leg or the butt or whatever.
Okay.
Focus mode is just you just hold L2 like you're aiming, and then hit R1 to attack. But it's literally like it's like aiming a gun, except you're aiming your melee weapon. Like you're just aiming. It gives you a reticle that you move around as if you're aiming a gun. It controls that way, but then you're still attacking melee style.
That's interesting.
Unless you have a ranged weapon, but what you're doing is aiming. It makes it easier to aim at those wounds because if you can hit the wound enough times, it'll like explode.
Ew.
It's weird. And in fact, like the message is like wound destroyed when you do that, which is bizarre because that's not how wounds work. But
do they start like limping around a lot more?
No, it gets you like a big like bombastic attack that does a ton of damage.
Basically a weak point.
Yeah, if you can like destroy the wound, you get like a big attack that does a ton of damage.
Okay.
What else is in there? I'm trying to think that is new.
I mean, like I said, like there's a ton of stuff here that they're listing, but I wouldn't even know how to bring it up with you about like combat stuff and like, hey, this weapon has changed.
Honestly, I mean, I would say the biggest reason I'm a little lukewarm on it is it's very story heavy so far, and the story has mostly been pretty bland.
Okay,
like there's a lot of cutscene, a lot of dialogue. Like the basic story is just you're on an expedition to an unexplored part of the world that was thought to be uninhabited until people are spotted there. And there's like a mysterious boy who doesn't know where he came from that you're trying to help him find his village. And, you know, it's pretty standard.
But we're going to hunt animals. Or
but there's a lot of hunting going on in between.
What is your slinger?
Slinger.
You no longer have some kind of slingshot.
You no longer have to walk up to items to gather them, as you can pick them up with your slinger.
Yeah, you can use that to like gather. Oh, I hadn't been using that for items on the ground. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe I should be doing that more.
Is it just a slingshot?
Yeah, you use it like during the intro. There's also like a number of like scripted mount sequences where you can't control the mount at all. You're just kind of riding along and like aiming at stuff. So you can use the slinger from the back of the mount to activate things and grab things, but I hadn't even considered using it to just pick up items on the ground.
So I guess, look, there's a whole list of stuff that is probably deeper in the minutia that I'm sure people are like, this is way different, this is not different, but I'm curious, your vibe with it, your feel with it is like, okay so far?
It's fine. I'm enjoying it well enough, and especially I'm waiting for the multiplayer to go back up.
Yes.
To play it with people.
Yeah, same here.
The other thing is I'm playing it on PS5 Pro, and that version is kind of jank.
When you say jank, like framey jank,
or like does not run super well.
Okay, that's a real bummer.
It's got like Dragon's Dogma 2 was really good on the PS5 Pro. I don't know if you ever tried that or not, but like
I have not gone back.
And RE4 actually, I played RE4 and Dragon's Dogma 2 after I got the Pro, and like those have a lot of like most of Capcom's games have a lot of good graphics options, but this one is a little more basic so far. I'm hoping they patch some more stuff in, but it's just like. Right now, it's just like performance balanced and resolution.
Okay.
And resolution and balanced both are pretty framey in not a great way.
Huh.
And performance is smooth, but kind of looks like shit. Like it looks noticeably rough around the edges.
I wonder if it has to do with how big the worlds are and the assets that have to stream in. What the PS5 should be streaming in that stuff pretty well.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you remember, Dragon's Dogma 2 on the base PS5 also was pretty jank last year, about a year ago at this time. Like it only got better on the Pro, so I'm hoping this will also get better.
On what?
It can get better.
With patches, not on the Pro.
No.
Yeah.
But I would say if you care about performance, PC is definitely the way to go for this one. So far, from what I've seen, like it's pretty disappointing on a console as expensive as that.
Well, you didn't try it on the base, right?
No, although I've got one sitting right here. I moved my regular into the office here, so maybe I should. I briefly looked at the Digital Foundry article. Like they said, Pro is the best version, but even that version, they kind of expected better. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like it so far. I don't know if the story stuff hopefully is going to get a little less thick over time. It feels like a lot of running back and forth, talking to different townspeople, in between hunts when you really just kind of want to be out hunting.
I feel like they front load a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Or I guess I can't say that. I'm an idiot. Like I didn't play enough to know if that stuff picks back up. But at some point when I was deeper into Monster Hunter, I feel like there was way less story stuff and more just go out and hunt a bunch of animals.
That was, again, I didn't play a ton of the handheld ones, but that's my memory of the handheld ones is they kind of just like get you through an intro and they're just like, hey, like, look, we know you were here to go kill a giant beetle and then make an armor out of its shell.
That's what we're here to do too.
Like get to work.
Yeah, I never got into the where all games wind up, which is probably, I don't know what you call Fashion Hunter. I don't know what you'd call it eventually, where you're just like making.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. It's got some name. Where you're just
honestly, I always just think of it as playing paper dolls.
Paper doll time. Yeah.
Everybody wants to play dress up.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to look cool.
Yeah.
And like, there's nothing left to do but look cool.
That's
right. Half the reason to play video games.
Yep.
Monster Hunter Wilds, that is out on Friday. Folks have been in and out of betas for forever. I don't know. I feel like not every time, I shouldn't say that, but there was a beta a long time ago, right? Like October or something like that.
It was some months ago.
And so that's coming out on Friday. No, get in there a week early for this one, huh?
No, I don't think Capcom has done that yet.
Okay.
No, I don't. Yeah, I'm trying to think if they have. I don't think they even did that for like Street Fighter.
It's $70 for the base game. I assume that is across all platforms at this point.
One would assume.
You're not getting your PC discounts
There's
anymore.
probably a fancy edition, right? That gets you some extra shit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'd love to know how expensive that edition is. I feel like the highest I've seen recently was as close to $150.
Good Lord.
For us fancy edition?
For a fancy edition of some game. I forget which one it was.
110 for the premium deluxe edition of this.
Does it get you a secret? Is that what your secret?
Sacred. Sacred is how they say it.
Does it get you a cool secret skin?
I would hope so for that much money.
For that much money.
Good
the
God.
sacred skins.
Yeah. A Monster Hunter Wilds out Friday. I'm looking forward to jumping in, but I have to see what the single player stuff is like. Maybe I can get my brothers to play some Monster Hunter. Maybe that's the thing they'll be into.
Yeah,
PlayStations.
It is still quite technical. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely I think the most approachable one of these has been. Like definitely even more so than World from what I remember.
Oh, I was living in the past. I thought there was a chance this could come out on a PS4. It's not on a PS4.
No.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
I said I was for a second there when I was talking about my brothers playing.
They don't even put sports games on PS4 anymore.
Like I said, this game is kind of struggling on a $700 3-month-old PS5 Pro.
Look, it's on both Xboxes.
They're also not alone on that. I feel like the thing I keep hearing about PS5 Pro versions is that there's something wrong with a lot of them.
Well,
like sometimes it's something very minor, but it just feels like no game has like completely worked on that thing without some kind of limitation.
That was definitely the case at launch. Like I've been messing with some of those games again. Like I played Jedi Survivor and Star Wars Outlaws recently. Like both of those games are way better than they were at launch now. Like Outlaws looks better and is smoother than it was in November.
I feel like I saw Outlaws get better as I was playing it in real time.
Yeah, and some of that's not all developers. Like some of that is Sony because they're quite literally releasing new versions of PSSR. Because like you'll see patch notes on like Outlaws like updated to the new version of PSSR.
Right.
So like that thing just kind of came in a little hot.
Everything's coming in a little hot.
Yeah. So I'm hoping Monster Hunter will get better over time, but we'll see.
Oh, I guess I gotta figure out if my family's doing a PS5 or PS5 Pro or just going all Xbox or
what. How do I feel about the personal computer?
That's a big ass. That's an expensive big ass.
Yeah, I mean you're not wrong. I was surprised like when I mentioned like I play games with some of my like college friends now.
Yeah, like
they're all in on PCs.
Yeah,
like they are very much in the demographic of like they don't play a ton of games. So normally you would associate them with buying consoles, because that's the both lower priced and just like more turnkey solution, right?
I wonder,
but it's just like their default is to have a PC now.
I can't speak to this as some sort of larger cultural trend because I obviously don't have that kind of information in front of me, but I will say the last couple of times I have in fact, yesterday when I went into like Micro Center, there was a guy who was just buying a giant pre-made gaming PC and monitor.
I was just going to say, I've actually seen a decent amount of that with parents and kids.
Yeah. And like the guy at the counter was like, "Yep, first gaming PC, here we go." And I'm just like, are people just maybe turning on consoles a little bit? I don't know. Or is it just like hey, I just want a fucking platform that I know will be future-proof for a while? I don't know. But it does feel like maybe something is trending in that direction.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of it is like they know people playing on PCs already. It's like, there's a reputation that you're getting a better experience there, like graphically. There's a reputation that the games are cheaper and go on sale way more often. So a lot of stuff.
And it might be, this is completely just anecdotal, but it might be where the only place you can find video cards is in pre-built PCs.
Oh, yeah. Possible, yes.
Definitely some of that as well.
And so, like, I think there's probably like, what the hell? I'm spending $1,000 on a video card. I should just get a whole PC at this point, right? Which you might not
you figure
be
those
wrong.
Things at least probably have the 40 series cards in them at this point.
Did those dry up? I have no idea. I don't watch the market.
I can't say across the board, but I think they did stop making like 4090s, for example.
Okay, and then they're just
this is probably just them getting rid of what they have in stock.
Man, that's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm. I was actually
50 series has been a whole thing.
Oh, I have not really paid much attention. What's going on with that thing?
It's funny. One of the last things I heard before we came to do this podcast, I was listening to the news, was I guess NVIDIA is doing their quarterly fiscals or stuff, and I
did hear that hasn't been going great.
I was very curious to hear what they report, considering the stuff I have seen, read, absorbed about the 50 series, and also about the reaction to their stock price after was it DeepSeek is the other AML that came out. So I was curious to see if they are going to project strength or project change. Brad, in short, is the 50 series basically? I think we did talk about this but from your understanding, I'm not asking you to get into technical stuff, but I think you mentioned this. It sounds like it is a trade-off of just brute force power to more frames.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, like the non-AI assisted performance increase is pretty much 1-to-1 with the electricity increase.
Right. Okay.
But I mean, the bigger stuff now, not to get into hardware talk too much, but like they're back on the melting power connector problem that the 40 series had.
Oh God.
To some degree. I mean, it's possible to say how widespread this is, but people are having cards melt their power connector. The bigger one is it just came out in the last week or two that like some number of the 50 cards have compromised GPUs on them.
Oh, that's a huge bummer.
They somehow fabricated some of these GPUs with fewer raster units on them than they're supposed to have.
Oh no!
Which literally just translates to lower performance. Like they just don't have as much. To put it in like very broad terms, the GPUs don't have as much oomph as they're supposed to have.
Is there any way to know?
Yes, you can load up stuff like GPU-Z and it'll tell you how many units your card has, so you can very easily verify if you have an affected card or not.
Weird.
But like, how does that happen? I don't know.
I don't know. There's like a lot of, I don't know, a conversation for another time, but it just seems like there's dug too greedily, too fast, too deep.
Or maybe just gaming market is not the thing they care so much about anymore.
Or the cards are getting too complicated, where it's just like, they're trying to
that's
pack
been the case for a while.
So much in, so much stuff, like the failure rates are tough to call out,
Well, I mean, I think where you would see quality control affected if they were not willing to devote the resources to the gaming segment as they used to. Because they could have absolutely caught this if they had been on top of it.
Would you buy a secondhand, fewer raster units card for like half the price?
Depends on how big the discount is.
I might be in that market. Like, give me the floor model, the damaged goods card.
I'd have to go look at the numbers again. I think we're talking like maybe 8% fewer than it's supposed to have, or something like that. So it's
decent. That's a decent amount.
Not nothing.
It's not catastrophic, but it's enough to notice.
Well, considering, look, I'm speaking out of my ass here, but from what I've seen, the benchmarks on like a 40 series are not that much higher in some cases. That's like you're now getting maybe comparable to the 40 series on certain things, not everything. All right. Let's take a quick break here. We'll come back. Before we speak too much about stuff we can't speak to intelligently, Monster Hunter and the current state of everything going on in video cards, we'll take a break, we'll reset, and we'll come back and talk about some more games. Stick around. And we are back now into our comfort zone, back into things you're a little more familiar with, if I can get that word out.
The realm of expertise.
That's right. Our lane.
Yeah.
Alex, how is Like a Dragon, a pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which is just still a ridiculous name?
It really is. It's pretty good so far, I will say. Yeah, I mean, look, I love Majima. I love these games. I am always happy when they do weird side stories. This is one of those. So it's pretty ridiculous.
Is it one of these games? Is it just another one of them? I'd kind of gotten the sense it was slightly maybe a different type of thing, somewhat being a spinoff, but is it actually just the template again?
Well, yes and no. Okay, so this is not a Ichiban style turn-based combat game. This is more like classic beat 'em up style. I will say that Majima's combos and attacks maybe feel like they have a little bit more in common with like some stylish hard action of old. It is very fast moving. He has some air juggles and things like that maybe Kiryu did not really do as much of. So it's a much snappier kind of like beat 'em up combat, but it is still beat 'em up style combat. And so I really haven't gotten too far outside of like kind of the first island where they kind of drop you. It is an amnesia story, but they are very quick to point out, it's like, yeah, look, we know this is an amnesia story, but like they're not doing it in a way where it's like he doesn't understand anything. He still has flashes of memory. He knows he was a scumbag, but he doesn't really know exactly what his name is or what his role was in all of it. All he knows is that he washes up on a remote island somewhere near the main Hawaiian Islands that seems to mostly be occupied by drifters and scalawags, and he doesn't remember who he is.
Why does he assume the role of a classical pirate here?
So, okay, classical is doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
Okay, why is he wearing a pirate hat?
Okay, so this island is, like I said, it's mostly a place where people seem to go to get away from the world. It's a lot of people who mostly subsist on fishing and scavenging, and it's like 60 people live here.
Sorry, did they say which island it is?
They don't. If they gave it I think they call it Rich Island specifically because of the guy who runs the bar there is named Rich. Like his last name is Rich.
Okay.
I'll get to him in a second. But so it's not heavily populated. There aren't a lot of people there. And the pirate aspect of this is that apparently a bunch of scumbags have been got a hold of what appears to be a fairly ramshackle old style pirate boat and decided they were going to live out their pirate cosplay fantasies out here where there's no one around to tell them not to.
Beautiful.
So they've been hanging out around this island and kind of doing their pirate crime shit. Yes, pirates steal things, Dan.
Just to make sure.
Yes, and they're very annoying to the people on this island, though at the same time, they're also some of the only customers they have because no one ever comes here. So,
okay.
Majima runs afoul of them immediately. Like a foul. Yes, he wakes up on the beach. He is rousted by the son of that Jason Rich guy, who sort of he's not the mayor. They don't really have a leadership structure on this island. Anyway, he helps you, but then these pirates come up to you and they hassle you and they start smacking the kid around. And you're like, well, fuck that, and you beat the shit out of them. And then you proceed to do that several more times until you then eventually beat the shit out of their captain and just take his boat. And his hat. And his coat.
I assume.
And all his doubloons.
And you already have the eye patch, so.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of a very easy through line. Yeah. But so, based on what I've seen so far, there is ship combat, and like you are managing a ship and a crew, though I have not really upgraded any of that stuff or gotten very far down that line. Most of what I've been doing is just kind of going through the first, opening hours of plot and kind of setting everything up. So it seems like they are pivoting kind of off the ending of Infinite Wealth, which is to say that at the end of that game, spoiler, we talked about it during Game of the Year, but I'll just mention it again here. There's that whole thing with Nele Island, which is the sacred island of the fake Hawaiian Scientology in that game, where they have been sending wayward Yakuza to basically toil away, storing other countries' nuclear waste.
Did you talk about this?
I definitely did. I definitely did at some point.
Okay. I thought you were going to mention a way different thing when you said spoiler.
No, so did I.
Okay. No. Fair. No.
Anyway,
please go ahead.
There's that whole thing with
thing.
Well, so there's that whole thing with the game where like the Yakuza have nowhere to go in that game, and a big part of that plot turns on the new version of like basically what has risen up in the place of the Tojo clan, the Seiryu clan, have been gathering all these wayward Yakuza to basically start a new dynasty of Yakuza, but that also turns out to be total bullshit. They're actually sending them to this island to basically die there, just, basically like toiling away, dealing with this nuclear waste that they have no intention of actually doing anything with other than just storing it there and letting it poison everything around it.
Okay.
It's a big scam, basically. So I think what is happening is that Majima has been dispatched to Nele Island at some point to go help with the reclamation project there of both bringing the wayward Yakuza home and also dealing with the nuclear waste problem there. But they don't say any of that. All you know is that everyone there knows there are a bunch of Yakuza running around on Nele Island. They assume you're one of them.
But the Majima's got the amnesia, so wouldn't remember.
So
that
he can't
anyway.
say why he's there. Yeah,
got it.
He just assumes, that must be where all my Yakuza friends are.
But
which is why he wants the boat, because he wants to go there and see what's going on.
But he knows he's in the Yakuza?
Yeah, so the tattoos were the dead giveaway. Also, he does have some vague memories of doing violence.
Okay, and he still remembers how to fight, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. So gameplay wise, a little more actiony.
Yeah. So like the moment to moment combat, like I said, is very much beat 'em up style gameplay. There's lots of stuff to do. There's the whole cooking mini game. There is, planting plants and sort of like subsistence living. There is all the pirate ship stuff. I think there's other stuff that I haven't even encountered yet. But there is there's like an animal menagerie you can start building on the island.
That's cool.
The little boy, I should mention, has a pet tiger.
Okay.
But it's a baby tiger.
Aww.
And it responds to you like it's a person because it's Yakuza, so of course it does.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point he rescues a chicken, and that's where you start building your menagerie around. The little tiger is named Goro, which is Majima's first name, but he doesn't know that. So there's two Goros. Yes, he doesn't remember.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Is there any Sujimon, or is that what the thing you're describing? Is that what takes the place of that?
There's no battling of those animals, or if there is, I haven't run into it yet. I don't know that Sujimon plays a factor here, but I wouldn't say I know for certain it doesn't.
Is the boat like a base that you customize, and do you put your animals on that, or the boat is not like your?
If the boat becomes a base, it hasn't yet. There are like hideouts you can they start you out with one on that island. It's just like a little like old barn that no one's living in. That sort of becomes your default. Like, hey, I go here to sleep. I go here to recharge my health. That kind of thing. It seems like there are going to be other hideouts, I assume, on other islands, which I haven't been to yet. But yeah, I mean, the thing about the tone of the story, like just right out of the gate, it feels more like an old Western than anything else. It's a real, down on his luck gunslinger, maybe doesn't fully remember who he is or something bad happened to him, wanders into this town where shit is not going great, and he just fucking sidles in there and just starts fixing everything, And like the delivery of the characters has maybe a little bit more in common with Westerns than maybe just straight up like pirate media. The pirate stuff feels like more an excuse to, one, play on the fact that he has an eye patch, and two, they're on islands in Hawaii. It makes sense to do this boat stuff.
Are there stance changes?
I haven't really run into any like that. There's the air juggle combos. There are definitely like things you can build out in your combat system. There is a whole skill tree and stuff, but
I have not seen like different.
Yeah, I haven't seen different fighting stances. There are like Mad Dog moves and stuff like that, which because he's the Mad Dog of Shimano, like that's his whole thing.
Okay. It's a $60 game. We should probably mention.
It is. I don't think it's as long as something like an Infinite Wealth, but it does not feel like a DLC campaign that they just shoved into a bigger thing. It feels like this is probably something similar to like The Man Who Erased His Name, where like there is definitely enough of a substantial game there.
Right. Can they keep this up?
I mean, you mean at this rate or just like in general?
Both, I guess. I mean, both for their sake in terms of production, but also just like, I guess there has to be demand for these, right? Because they keep making them. Like, I just make so many of these things.
Yeah, I mean, they've been kind of on a, one thing a year at least, though they also did that remake of the Feudal Japan one. They did there's The Man Who Erased His Name, which came out like literally months before Infinite Wealth did. Here's what I've managed to gather just from what little I know from reading about this studio. They're very good at reusing assets. Like that's a thing they are able to do. They're able to remix their own assets pretty easily. Not to say there isn't a ton of like, story content and, editing and voice acting and work that goes into that stuff. But they don't necessarily, with something like this, obviously they have to build out some new islands, but a lot of the stuff they made for the Hawaiian game can be reused here.
And this is, I do feel like I skim off the surface of these. You are obviously the Yakuza fan.
I'm in it,
right?
man.
Yeah. This just seems like fun. Like it's and a place for them
really
to
goofy right out of the gate.
And explore like the beat 'em up mechanics again, and go back in and have fun with Majima. And Majima seems like a vehicle for a good time.
They are very quick to say that, look, we're not going to make this more complicated than it needs to be. Like there's a whole Majima starts out the game already wearing his pirate outfit, and he's sitting in a throne. He's like, all right, look, let me tell you what happened 6 months ago. He starts telling you the story, but then there's like a little bit of an unreliable narrator aspect to it too, because at one point he's like, When I first met that kid, let me tell you, getting over the language barrier was a fucking pain in the ass. And for your benefit, I'm not going to tell you how I did it. So they just talk in the same language the entire time.
Great. Yeah. It's goofy, fun. I like that stuff. I also, I think I might like the beat 'em up style more than the turn-based stuff for the Yakuza games.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for Ichiban to have that turn-based thing because he is such a JRPG nerd and a dork. But like for someone like Majima, it doesn't make any sense because all he knows how to do is knife crime.
Sure. That is, like we said, $60. Obviously, you could pay more because we live in an age of deluxe editions. So you can get your $75 version. That came out like last week, I think, right?
At the end of last week. Yeah. I started playing it this weekend. I'm into it. I will say that.
Cool. Expect to hear more.
Yes.
That is full title again. Let me just grab it here. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. All right. Moving on. Avowed. That's where I spent my time.
Yes.
Avowed.
Speaking of into it, and you will hear more about.
Yes.
I also played a little bit more.
Continue to really enjoy that game in a way that is academically enlightening to me because having come from something like a Baldur's Gate, a Final Fantasy, which I'll lump in there with this stuff. It's not necessarily the most Western of RPGs, but it is maybe a little more than previous JRPGs I have played. Dragon Age and now hitting Avowed. I'm trying to academically, like I said, parse out why I'm enjoying this so much more than I am than those other ones that I have spent time in. And I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I will continue to research. But it probably has something to do with compared to Dragon Age specifically, which made me start thinking about this. Avowed seems to just be having a little more fun with its tone. And like I just completed a mission. I finished it up this morning where it's part of the main storyline or is it part of the main storyline? I think it is part of the main storyline. And that's even great too that I don't know.
Right.
That somebody's trying to put the soul of a god in a robot, right? Like
is it the big cave?
Yeah, the big cave.
With the gold guy in it?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I'm near the end of that quest is where I left off right now.
So you're presented with some choices near the end. And like I made my choice and I was like, I don't know if that was the right choice or not. I'll be curious to see where this goes.
No way of knowing.
Where I left off was I have the thing you need to plug into the robot, but I have not made my way back to the robot yet. Yeah. Also, when I left, it was a statue. They had not come out and said it was going to be a robot, although it's pretty obvious. But that's actually a side quest. That is actually not part of the main story. It's just something you stumble into and then proceed to spend I bet I've been in that cave for 90 minutes. Like it's just a side quest.
It's go find the lost research group, right? Yeah.
That's just something you kind of stumble into in the mountains, but like you could miss that. You could completely miss that, and it's a whole self-contained dungeon with like a lot of very nice art.
Yeah,
a lot of writing.
Yeah,
like it's pretty interesting. It's got its own
characters, right?
It's got its own vibe to it. Like you probably talk for 20 minutes to that dude when you find him at the shrine, right? When he's got a whole very interesting backstory.
Yeah,
that I went through. It's like you could totally miss that whole side quest, and it's just there to find if you happen to climb up and just explore in those mountains.
So I think that kind of stuff is what's keeping me really interested in going. Where something again, Dragon Age, I feel like would have a very clear or seem to have very clear. This is evil. This is bad. This is good. This is the Paragon role, or make it seem of little consequence. Now, I don't know enough about this game yet to know if the things I'm doing will have consequence later. They are certainly building it up to it. I'd be very disappointed if it did not, because they certainly seem like, oh, all right, this is going to have some.
That's what you want to do.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's going to be the case. Other than that, though, it's just snappy moving around.
Yeah.
It moves, like combat doesn't get bogged down. I feel like the combat I've been in basically just move is a kinetic. It moves. You're in, you're out. You did your business. I'm not saying it's breezy, but it is in Dragon Age and in Final Fantasy. you just get bogged. You just like you hit a combat thing, you're like, oh god, okay,
I got to do this again.
Yeah, I kind of look forward to the combat in this game. Honestly, like it's fun and it's varied. Like it's like you know, like we talked about last week, the fact that you can go from sword and shield to spellcaster and back in seconds.
Yeah,
and combo the abilities of those different playstyles together is like just so interesting.
I've switched over to a sword because of some reasons which I won't get into because it might be spoilery, but I was a spear and shield and then the rifle which I'd been using a lot, which is funny because I'm also trying to do as much stealth as I can in the game, but I have found the stealth opportunities to mostly be I can get the drop on one person and then everybody lights up so far.
As much as we talk about how you can kind of do whatever build you want in this, it doesn't feel like a stealth build is really a thing.
Not yet. The abilities might go in that tech tree, might get you to a point where you can kill somebody without everybody getting alerted immediately. Right now, so how many companions do you have?
I've still just got the one. I didn't play a ton of it this week. And I'm not trying to be critical of Monster Hunter, but there are definitely times playing Monster Hunter that I really just wanted to go back to Avowed, which is more to it's less to say that I don't like Monster Hunter and more to say how much I do like Avowed. Like I really want to get back to it.
So it's funny you're doing that cave with one companion. There's a main quest which was pretty clear that like, oh, I think I'm just going to get another companion. I should go get this other companion.
Is that when you go up into the strangle route? Because I've been putting that off.
Oh man, it might be 2 or 3 steps past that.
So I have been putting off even going into the strangle route.
So you have not found the Claringer or whatever the
Claviger, I think.
Claviger,
the mayor, basically the mayor of Paradise. No, I haven't. Like I kind of was just like I kind of want to just explore this whole area before I go up there. Because,
oh my gosh, you are so
okay. I should go up there. Then I was worried it was going to lead me to like the next area, or I was going to get shut off from stuff, or you know, like I didn't want to get too deep into the main story before I had done a lot of exploring. But maybe I should go do that.
You should probably go do that.
Okay.
There for a variety of reasons, but also yes. So we can answer the question. I have 2 party members at a time now.
Okay.
But they have unique dialogue in that cave, which is interesting.
Oh man.
I mean, look, you're not missing too much, but there was a great part in that cave where it was like, okay, look, is that you have a choice here of what you want to do, how you want to resolve this, and I got to ask my 2 companions basically like, hey, what do you guys think? And they both gave me an opinion. I was like, okay, fair. I take your judgment. I'm gonna make a choice based on that, which I was like, I really respected that about a game that lets you confer with your party and not have, because that's what you would do, right?
Right.
I mean, it depends how you're role playing the game. That's what I would do, is be like, hey, I don't know, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
And so I was glad I had gotten that other party member as well. So I'm getting much more Baldur's Gate vibes from this than I am Dragon Age or, and again, it's not really the best comparison, but like a Final Fantasy, just another game that it was an RPG, despite its, you know, Western RPG or JRPG roots that I spent a lot of time in. I just haven't felt the slog on this yet. And that's what I felt in Dragon Age and in Final Fantasy. And there are some nice quality of life things. Brad, you mentioned them being able to just shunt loot to your stash when you become encumbered. You know, the upgrade mechanics are kind of interesting where you're doing tiers of upgraded loot where it's like, okay, I definitely need to be breaking stuff down because I need all that iron ore and upgrading, and I'll get to the next tier of this loot and so on and so forth. It's just interesting, snappy, engaging, still challenging, but I'm not suffering in it. I pretty much steer towards things that are not rated too hard for my character at this point, so I come back and I do other things. I thought that cave might be too difficult to go in. Are you having a rough time in it?
Not really. When I did the like kind of little quasi boss fight when you find the relic and like a bajillion skeletons spawn and stuff, like that was, you know, that was taxing, but like I got through it.
Okay. Because I went back and I did you get to a point where you can just remember we talked about last time, there's like, oh, we haven't really picked up a lot of side quests. I got a lot of side quests. I got there's actually a bounty board where you could just pick up bounties off the board.
Okay.
You pick up spots. There's enough going on now where I have a very full plate that I feel good about, because I'm like, man, I want to go check these places out. I'm getting interesting, not not too much loot, but interesting loot from these places. I still need to figure out the cooking mechanic and that crafting mechanic. I have run low on potions, and I feel like maybe I should be making more food to regain health, or there are some other abilities that maybe I should be using more, but I do run out of potions more.
That would definitely help. Like the food in combat, like it takes, once you eat, it takes a long time for the health to tick back up to what it's supposed to restore. So that can be dicey.
But you've probably been picking up a lot of like food resources, right?
Yeah.
Like mushrooms and this, that, and the other thing.
You definitely cook meals and stuff. I actually, and part of this is that I have the fancy version of the game that came with some bonus armor, but I've been like building my armor toward health regeneration. Like there's a bunch of different perks on different armor for health regen. Like one of them health regens when you're in the water.
Oh, I got a ring that does that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I think it's the same ring I have. So
you have
like
to be
I would
wet.
I would just go jump in the water every time I need some health between battles.
Slow though. It's so slow.
Kinda.
So slow. I gave that up for a different set of a different ring. I think a higher crit ring, but like stuff like that. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Having a good time with it.
I don't think there's anything in the game that has put me off. Like, like you think about when you're playing through a game and like you basically just have like a little meter that's just like how interested am I in this game, and like sometimes it ebbs if you hit a dull spot or there's not much going on of interest, like I don't think there's ever been a point where that needle has gone below average, it's like like everything you're doing in that game, even basic combat, even basic exploration, like there's always something valuable or fun.
Yeah.
Like nothing about it has ever bored me or made me think like, maybe my time would be better spent doing something else. Like it's just really good.
I'll say one quest here. It may be a minor spoiler, but it is a small quest that you just stumble into. It's not even a quest. It's an encounter, really, I think. I
might have a guess, but go on.
It was the grave robbers.
Yes.
It's grave robbers encounter that I was like, okay, the writing in here is fun.
It's
like,
good.
You meet these grave robbers, and there's this like big brute guy next to this other character that is the boss, right? And you're like, no, okay, look, I guess we could just get into this fight. And I feel like it subverts just the normal stuff of like, you're like, I'm gonna kill you for grave robbing. And then finally the big brute guy is like, whoa, I never wanted to do this.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be here. I didn't know you were going to kill us. Like, I'm out of here. I don't want, and runs off. And the boss is like, and you wind up getting into the fight. And I don't know. I got into the fight with the boss and like just murdered them.
Yeah.
But, and then you find the brute later. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, I hadn't found him yet, but I resolved that quest the same way. It's not even a quest is the other thing. It doesn't have a name on it or anything. You literally just stumble into this little 5-minute narrative event in this graveyard.
Yeah.
And yes, I also talked my way out of running the muscle off.
Yeah, and it felt good.
Yeah, like and then there's another narrative event kind of attached to that area. Did you find the guy up on the cliff?
I'm not sure.
Okay, it's trying to think how to describe it without just spoiling what happens. There's
Is
also
it related to grave robbing?
Not really, but it's like overlooking that graveyard.
Okay, I should go back and explore that.
There's a book right near there. There's like right next to the graveyard. There's a book that'll talk. It's like a scientist journal talking about a guy setting up a camp overlooking this spot. So it's basically a cliff looking down on that area.
Okay,
if you go find that guy, it's another little like literally like 10-second little narrative thing. Like the game is just full of like personality and story.
Yeah, and I'll just say, just to reiterate, the encounter where I was like, I was resigned to being like, okay, we're going to get into this fight. Usually when you push those, like, I'm not letting you leave here alive, you're just in a fight. And it just surprised me when I hit that to then have more be like, the other person be like, oh, I'm not fighting. I'm out of here and I'll leave you. It was like, oh, that's interesting. That's usually not how this goes. I thought I would have to go the diplomatic route to do that and not the like super aggressive route. The only thing, my one quibble, and I mentioned this last time, my one quibble I have with it is I picked the war hero, and just all the war hero responses are very much like straighten up soldier, which is not necessarily, I mean, look, it makes sense. I just wasn't expecting that to be the like hardline militant.
You were going
person.
for more of a Born on the 4th of July burnout kind of thing is what you wanted.
No, I just wasn't, they just aren't as interesting a dialogue choice as I would like to have as my special option. And a lot of times those are the special options, unless you're passing your skill checks. They just don't seem as fun to me as some of the other ones I saw when we did our stream of it, right? Like,
yeah, it's kind of a shame you can't change that stuff. Although, like, an Origin, you can see why. It's kind of baked into the story a little bit. But like, I am finding the Noble Scion to be a great choice because it's like there's a good amount of like snark and sort of tongue in cheek arrogance there.
Yeah, so this is more of like when you run into the military factions in there, it's just a lot of like, get it together, soldier. And you're like, oh, okay, all right, I guess. And they're like, oh, okay, oh, it's the envoy. Oh, I guess I should.
Man, whoever voice directed that game, like they really needed to get their pronunciation of envoy consistent. Just literally about 50-50.
Envoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kai says
Wait,
it a little differently.
Who the fuck says envoy?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But it definitely feels like everybody's saying it a little differently.
Gotcha.
Yeah, fun. And again, can't really. I'm a sucker. You have Garrus in it talking to you all the time.
Yep.
It's work for me.
It was low hanging fruit, but it's so effective.
I mean, you go to camp, you do your conversations. There's definitely some Mass Effect vibe happening there.
It feels more and more like a Mass Effect style game to me. I mean, obviously there are some pretty big differences and similarities to other types of games, but like there is a real Mass Effect vibe to this game for sure.
Yeah.
I continue to be just like shocked how impressed I am with that game.
Yeah, and I bring up those other games too because it's not like we don't have enough RPGs to take up time, and it's fun to see a refreshing.
They keep making them.
Also, it looks fantastic. Like there's just like the art design is excellent, and also, but I mean, like I don't want to hang too much of it on technology, but like Unreal Engine 5 just looks really good once people have had time to figure out how to use it right. Like I'm playing that game on a base Xbox Series X, and it looks dramatically better than the PS5 Pro version of Monster Hunter. Just
interesting.
By way of comparison, like that game looks fantastic.
But it's not even just the technicals. I really do think the art style does a ton for it.
Yeah, totally.
Like it's so both, colorful. Sure. Everything pops.
I think graphically on the Series X, here and there, a little funky. On the PC, everything a little smoother and nicer.
Yeah, I mean, you can see some artifacts, like definitely.
Yeah. I switched it over to performance also on the Xbox.
Oh yeah, that would yeah. I'm doing the 40 hertz there, where you get the nice graphics with slightly better frame rate.
Yeah, it's that stuff where you see like in the hair the dithering and like
Yeah, I think that's the kind of software ray tracing they're using or whatever.
Yeah, but on the PC, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's Avowed. Excited to continue playing that game. My hope is that it doesn't overstay its welcome and that I continue to have a good power curve with my character. I feel like that's a little TBD.
This is literal like one Blue Sky reply that I saw this in. It's just one data point. I haven't looked at like how long to beat or anything, but I saw somebody say they basically 100%ed the game at I think 68 hours.
Okay.
Which is like every bounty, every side quest, everything there was to do, basically, practically.
Okay.
I did see one person also say they have played it for like 100 hours, but that's because they keep going everywhere and just trying to find every single thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it critical path like 30, 40 hours.
It does make me want to go into the revisit the Pillars of Eternity other games.
Yeah, like that's kind of
I've never touched them.
Fairly interesting universe, it seems like.
Yeah. Yes. Another fairly interesting universe. Brad Void Crew.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
we played more of that. Kind of surprised how drawn I am to that game.
That game is awesome.
This Void Crew is up to 4 people. We talked about it previously. Up to 4 people manning a ship against the AI or the computer world. It's not like a PvP battle game. It's got a little bit of Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time or Sea of Thieves. And you're going out and trying to complete different missions on a run-based timeline. But everything about it just kind of gels and works in its sci-fi atmosphere. And I think, Brad, you and I both played, and Will apparently also played on our own time.
Yes.
And came back to that last stream with a little more knowledge, a little more maturity.
Yes, like that's how cool that game is, that we all went and played this inherently multiplayer game by ourselves just to play it more and level up more before we came back to stream it again. And B, like the tone shift from our first stream of that game to the second one. The first stream was just like farting around with the intercom and like popping the void drive while people are not strapped in so they go flying through the, like goofing. That second stream was all business.
Mm-hmm.
That second stream was everybody's on their shit in their station doing their role. Like, we're going to beat this thing.
it's just interesting. I mean, maybe there's a point where a plateau point in that that cycle, but we still have plenty of room to grow with our dropping in points, which seem to really make a big difference in terms of your character for your XP and getting better and better at the game, and like still figuring out like, hey, where do we want to put the guns, on this side, shields on this side or this side, kinetic weapons or laser weapons, like still figuring out exactly how to optimize a run is very exciting. That's the exciting part of these games, right? Like,
for sure.
These types of missions, I feel like we got some of this. These types of missions are inherently easier, so we could do them on a higher difficulty versus these other types, which are very tough. So yeah, Void Crew, can't wait to jump in there and play some more of it. That game's $25. I can say with a little bit of confidence that it is playable single player and still a great experience. Though I haven't done a ton of it, but
I think it's, like you do have to like jump out of the pilot seat and go fix things here and there in the single player, but there are some automated systems, like it's playable. I don't know that I don't know if I would say probably should have a crew. I don't know if it'd be satisfying just by yourself, but maybe.
I think it's probably one of those things where you can supplement, right?
Yes,
with
for
some
sure.
Single player.
Yeah.
You get what happens is you get you go in the smaller ship, and basically you have robot or AI controlled guns that'll auto target what you're targeting as the pilot. It does run into a little bit of a panic when you do have to man multiple things and put out fires on your ship.
That makes some sense.
Yeah. Okay, and then Alex, we continued our Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which I thought we were going to wrap up last time.
No,
but,
it sounds like we got about one more stream's worth.
Okay, look, I am enjoying, I said this last time, I am enjoying playing this with multiple people. Abby joined us last time as well. I am enjoying the characters. I am not necessarily digging the stretching out of whatever drama is going to happen.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a lumpiness to the pacing of this thing. Like, I understand they're breaking it up into two halves, so like I'm sure like the second half, once they have done all their establishing stuff, will probably be more about like fixing whatever the problem is that they are about to encounter. But like, we have been playing this for like 4 hours now. We just got to the weird part of the game, which is to say maybe the thing that implies some kind of supernatural mystery, though even that has not really been spelled out in great detail yet. Like the flashback and flash forward stuff, I don't necessarily mind on its own, but the amount of time they are spending luxuriating in the 90s teen nostalgia-ness versus the constant cutbacks to, we know something bad happened here, what is it, is maybe a little much.
And sometimes when you're doing this, we've all had to do this, you have to separate out your streaming self from your normal game playing self. I'm like, okay,
my normal game playing self would be annoyed at this too.
And that's what I'm thinking. I think it might be worse if I were just doing this on my own versus playing with other people, because sometimes time moves very fast with other people playing. But yeah, I just give me a couple more hints and breadcrumbs and something. Yeah. And I think what broke me was them really, in the end of that last stream, feeling like we were there and then we weren't there. Like we're
going to come back to this, and it's
like we were at the reveal and like, here's where it's going to happen. And then it did not.
You can watch the stream if you want to find out what it is, but let's just say they really layer on the spooky thing. And then it feels like they just immediately unplug from it and are like, okay, we're going to go back to the to the main story. And it's like, wait, what? I want to know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I think that game is still pretty good. I want them to just get it. I want them to sink their teeth into the meat of this thing already.
Let's move along now.
Let's move along, please. Let's keep blooming. That game is currently out. But again, the Rage part still TBD April 15th. For
I've got the Rage. Don't you worry.
The Rage still blooming. Maybe a little longer than I thought. And then Next Fest is on now. Is there never? It's the time between Next Fests seems shorter and shorter. I know it's the same every year, but
I think they're now quarterly.
It feels like there's.
They're at least 2 a year. I think they might be up to 3 now, though.
You might be right. I thought it was 2 a year, but yes, it feels like there is a Steam Next Fest on constantly now.
I have to imagine they are planning these at least 2 or 3 ahead now, because you have to tell those developers, do you want to be a part of this thing or not?
Yeah, and I skimmed the list for this one and did not see a ton that jumped out at me, and it actually made me start wondering if they could if they could schedule so many of these that it outstrips the ability of developers to produce demos, because doing a demo is extra development time. Like, that doesn't just happen overnight.
Well, I feel like the counterbalance, at least the justification I can think of for why they would be doing so many of these, is that they may be worried that some developers are getting lost in the shuffle. Because when there are very big demos or things that are very hyped, it's harder for the smaller stuff to stand out at all.
That is definitely true.
Like when you have like 1,000 demos and 20 big ones.
So maybe smaller Next Fest is actually better.
Alex, let's start with you. Sounds like you picked one out here to check out.
I just started messing around with these. I mean, I downloaded like 6 or 7 demos, but I haven't gotten into all of them yet. But the one I did spend the most time in was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown demo from Strange Scaffold, the makers of El Paso Elsewhere and I Am Your Beast and Clickholding and about 17 other games in the last 5 years.
What a pairing.
Yeah. This is the first licensed thing that I think they've done.
Is this Ninja Turtle XCOM?
Not exactly, but it's in the neighborhood. It is a grid-based tactical combat game where, I mean, look, the demo is a very small slice of it. It's just, it's a handful of levels. They start you out as Michelangelo. But what basically happens is, it's similar. Let's just say, let's frame it like it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game.
Okay.
You're out on these streets. You're fighting foot soldiers and, the various robots of Krang and what have you. And so when they plop you down, they let you sort of decide where you're going to plop yourself down on the map. And then you were given a handful of enemies to deal with. And so you have a series of attacks you can do. It is all turn-based, as I said. You do your turn. And over the course of your turn, you have a certain number of action points you can do, which means you can do multiple attacks or moves, whatever you want to do. There's basic movement. You can just sort of skateboard, kickflip over dudes if you want. If you want to do a more focused like diving attack, you can jump over a guy, which will then create a status effect on them that makes them juggled, and then you can get more damage on your attack after that. There are like, abilities where you can like move guys around the grid.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think the thing it reminds me the most of is fights in tight spaces.
I was just about to bring that up, looking at the screenshots, like the very small kind of play area seems very reminiscent of that.
Or was it Chimera Squad? That
other XCOM thing?
Yeah.
So it's in that neighborhood. I would say it's maybe like the spaces maybe feel a little. It's not as tight a space as a fight in tight spaces,
and it's not card based.
No, it's not. It's not a deck builder. I haven't seen what like kind of upgrades there are, if there are any. I'm assuming you get more abilities as you go along, but there are also environmental hazards that can take place. The way the map structure works is that it's similar to the way, let's say in a beat 'em up, there's that thing that dings. It's like, you need to move, go.
Yeah.
So the version of that here is that the back part of the map, when they start revealing more of the map that's ahead of you, the back part of the map will eventually just drop out and disappear.
Okay.
And so what you can do, you can actually use that to your advantage. You can push guys over the edge or into the area where the map will disappear, and then they're gone in the next round. There are also environmental hazards like cars coming through, like things exploding around you. You can try and shove guys into those areas and get out of them yourself and use the environment to your advantage. It's pretty tactical, I have to say. Like the moves are pretty, very Ninja Turtles in that it's a lot of like, kick flipping with skateboard and doing, fucking ninja kicks and shit. But the actual tactics are reasonably taxing. Like, you have to sit there and think about some stuff. I definitely died, even in the first, like, couple of missions a few times before I really got my bearings on what you're supposed to do.
Did you get, in the demo, do they even allow you to get more than Michelangelo on a team?
If there is, I haven't gotten to that part yet. Okay. I played through the first, like, few sections, and that was all Michelangelo. There is, like, a helper mechanic. Like, basically, there's a meter that builds up. And when you fill that thing up, you can ask for help, and then like a drone will pop up that has like some special ability. Like one of them is like freeze guys in place. I think another one was just like straight up like knock them out. I assume that's like Donatello tech or something. I'm not sure.
How's Michelangelo's inner monologue?
There wasn't a lot.
No, he's not like, I ate the pizza and I had to,
No, they're not doing the El Paso Elsewhere thing. As far as I know, Xalavier is not voicing any of the turtles, though. That'd be really funny. What if he voiced all the turtles? That'd be really funny.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, not a lot of voice acting from what I could see, mostly just kind of grunts and barks, but maybe there's more in the final game.
That's such a weird pairing, and I'm glad they're getting work.
And again, I don't think it's the only demo Strange Scaffold has right now. I think there's another game of theirs that's also in the Steam Next Fest.
That's very funny. Of course.
They can't stop.
Won't stop.
I'm just going to say this right now. I have seen a vision. Yeah. I have previsioned it. I believe that Xalavier Nelson is going to take over the world.
I mean, they have 4 games in the upcoming on Steam. Like, they have 4 games announced and announced but not released yet.
Yeah, look, and I think 2 of them are in the Next Fest.
Is it Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3 that has a demo? Yeah. I believe is the other one with a demo.
That one, I believe, is some sort of like match 3 roguelike thing or something.
Oh, that sounds good to me.
I'm not 100% sure. I haven't tried that one yet.
I hope everything is a healthy, productive, happy work environment, because I don't want to hear a story later on that there was a grind and these games had to come out,
This looks like Puzzle Quest.
Yeah, I think it's in the neighborhood of Puzzle Quest.
Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3 looks like a Puzzle Quest type match 3 combat battler.
Look, I'm not like good friends with Xalavier or anything. Like, we've talked a little bit here and there. I'm just an admirer of his work and also his work ethic. But the gist I've gotten from hearing him talk about it is that, like, they're pretty good at speccing what they are capable of doing. Like, he's pretty adamant about not working people to death. And I think a lot of the work that is being done on this stuff, he's trying to make sure it is manageable within the scope of what their studio is.
Yeah, I mean, like, some of these games are fairly bite-sized. Like Click Holding is like a 45-minute game.
Right.
All Systems Dance.
Okay.
Is another one they have going that looks like some kind of third-person action game that's got a little bit of a Jet Set Radio kind of vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Teenage Demon Slayer Society is a turn-based character action game.
Okay.
That sounds interesting.
I mean, a lot of these sound like they are kind of pivoting off of each other. Like, there are things that they are building for one game, and then maybe they're spinning something from that game off into a different thing.
All of these games are announced and have screenshots and trailers up.
Yep.
Got 4 games coming close to a point of release right now.
But they don't all have demos?
No, not yet.
Just 2 of them.
Brad, let's pivot off of that into Fellowship?
Yeah. Somebody on Discord pointed me to this, so I just jumped in there and checked it out. Fellowship. Somebody basically tried to make World of Warcraft without the world, effectively.
Just Warcraft. They have that game already.
Well, I mean, this is. Do you remember like the raid? Not raids. What do they call the smaller instances? I guess is what they were generally called in WoW. Like not the 40 person raids, but the smaller ones.
Sure. Yeah.
This game appears to be just that.
It really does look like World of Warcraft.
Dude, like, that's why I had to play it, because the art, and sure enough, like 5 seconds into the tutorial, I was like, man, they really just made World of Warcraft. Like,
even the like hot bar at the bottom,
like all of the muscle memory was exactly the same, down to like holding down the right mouse button to spin the camera while you're running around and aim yourself, and like, it's character based, not class based. So, like, but they are very much the WoW classes. Like, it's like they straight up refer to the Trinity on the Steam page of tank, healer, damage dealer. And you're picking named characters. So like Helena is the extreme warrior archetype, the warrior class from WoW. Like, she's got the charge, the bash, the taunt, like all of it is fucking exactly the same.
That's wild.
Like, I played her because she's the tutorial character, so that's who I already tried. Like, I did one online. I think it's only 4 players.
It seems like in a party. The videos I saw.
Yeah, in a party, I think it's only 4 players, but I played her, and I was just charging into fights just like a warrior in WoW. Like, it felt exactly the same.
Gosh, it is so funny.
The art is very similar, but there's no world to explore. Like, you spawn into a hub, like a little courtyard area that's got like a blacksmith and a stash and a stables, and just like basic character upgrade stuff. And you can see other players like milling around in there, so you can see what they're wearing and stuff, but that's it. Like, you just go there, upgrade your person, and then you just hit like find game and match into a dungeon run. And go do your stuff and get loot and hopefully beat the boss and get out. I mean, it's like Destiny Strikes is another comparison points. If you've played Destiny but not WoW, it's like it's like doing a strike, basically. It was interesting.
Yeah, I mean that is you really if you're curious, you really got to see it and look it up. It is
it really feels very familiar if you played a lot of WoW.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'll play much more of it. I mean, it's a cool experiment, and people seem to be into it. There were people that were pretty high level already in there in the demo.
Okay.
I'm sure this has an audience. Like without the world to explore, though, with just the combat, like it kind of started feeling a little bit rote at some point.
No release date on that one.
No. Like it was neat. It was neat to check it out. It kind of also just makes me realize, like, I don't want a game like WoW. I just want it to be 2004 again.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to, like, you can never experience WoW or your first MMO the same after you've had that experience, right?
Yeah.
Like even if they made World of Warcraft 2 right now, like the experience would not be the same as the first time you get into an MMO and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how big this is and how many people are in here.
Yeah.
So it's just you can't go home again.
And people were great, and people sucked in just all different ways.
Yep. Yep. I think the real net effect of trying this demo is I will get back into the WoW PTR again this weekend and go run through Scarlet Monastery.
When you say get back into the WoW PTR, are you popping an old character?
Yeah, you can port all of your old characters on.
What level is that? A Flugan?
Yeah, but there's been so many like rebalances and scalings, and I mean, I think it's like low 60s or something. I didn't play much past like mid Burning Crusade, seriously. Okay. So, but yeah, it's like I don't even know what leveling is. They flattened everything at some point in that game.
When you go into the test, do you get like a crystal or something you can take to like get 30 levels and bring you up to try some other stuff?
I can't remember actually.
Okay,
I don't think so. I think the character is just the character.
Okay.
I think you would have to level it if you wanted to play the real content, but there's nobody in there, so like, what's the point, really? But it works out great for me because all I want to do is play the old content, and I'm so over leveled for that like I never got a group together to do Scholomance back in the day. But at some point, 2 or 3 years ago, I just went in there. You can one shot everything now. Like I'm high enough level that I can run through Scholomance and kill the bosses in one hit. So it's like I can just see all this art. I can just see the raids that I missed back in the day because I didn't care. I was not devoted enough to like play the game that way.
You can get all the loot. You still have your mount? Or do they take your mounts away?
I
haven't been in there in a long time.
I think I've pretty much got everything.
Okay. Flying mount?
Yes.
Great. Fantastic. All right. That's going to do it for the games. Next Fest continues. I don't know when it ends, but it'll end and then a new one will begin. That's how they happen. The cycle of rebirth ends March 3rd, 10 a.m. Pacific. Still going to say a little wishy-washy on when demos disappear. Maybe that's up to publishers and developers for when they pull their demos down. But March 3rd is the official Steam Next Fest end. All right. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about what the hell is happening in the game industry. The news. Stick around. We'll be right back. And we are back. And it is time for the news. Brad Shoemaker, what a world out there.
What a world.
What a world of confusing.
You can say that again.
And
upsetting,
tumultuous, just whiplash of stories in a stormy world. Warner Brothers really rises above. Maybe what
in the way that a boat rises above the waves right before it capsizes.
I almost wrote that in the notes for the news this week. I almost wrote the Warner Brothers tumult.
Yeah,
and I was like, can I say that? I went with chaos instead, which feels a little less highfalutin.
I like tumult.
It's a good word, but unfortunate word, and also
an accurate one.
Yes, rising above in this case not being a good thing. It means you have somehow risen above the din of industry chaos, to borrow your word, to be exceptional here. Brad, what's going on?
What has it been? 2 weeks? Was it 2 weeks ago we talked about? It was like 2 to 3 weeks when Multiverses got shut down. Then that Jason Schreier report came out about Wonder Woman being in trouble. And
I think that was last week, dude.
it was not last week. I think it was, but it was no more than 2 weeks ago. I think that we talked about the Schreier report. So like, it felt very much like
the Schreier report.
Yes, like it felt very much like there was another shoe to drop with the Warner Brothers situation. I did not expect it to be this fast or this brutal. But it came out pretty unceremoniously yesterday. They fucking shut down Monolith.
Yeah.
And canceled the Wonder Woman game. And they also shut down, what's the Multiverses developer? Is it Player First Games?
Yeah.
Yes. And one of their other studios, the WDB Games office in San Diego also.
So we're making a free-to-play game, I think.
Is that what it was?
I think it was supposed to be a AAA style free-to-play game, I think.
I tried to find what they were working on, could not find that. But just 3 studios axed on a Tuesday afternoon, and a very large licensed game coming from the biggest of those studios just cut.
Which is I don't know. And I like, we have to, it's probably worth mentioning all the other stuff that has preceded this at Warner Brothers proper, right? Like we've hinted at some of the stuff in their movies and their streaming services.
If you pay attention to like modern entertainment media, especially stuff coming out of America, it's hard to ignore the degree to which the Zaslav era has affected a great number of different facets of just their business and the larger entertainment business. And, you know, they basically have been cutting wild things to save them money on taxes and things like that. They have killed creative projects kind of willy-nilly. And Warner Brothers Interactive has kind of been humming in the background, but also having a string of games that were ultimately, you know, financial failures, if not necessarily critical failures.
So, Brad, Warner Brothers has basically said what their North Star is here, to steal an old fucking CBS CNET term.
Polygon got their hands on the email that was sent to employees about this, which they did not publish in full, but there are quotes in there about, let's say this came from JB Perrette, the CEO of Global Streaming and Games for Warner Discovery. I will say Schreier was out there yesterday going like, you know, like a lot of people like to lay all this at the feet of David Zaslav, but like it's worth noting that it was the same guy running Warner Brothers Interactive, David Haddad, for like over a decade.
Right.
Like he has overseen this whole era in the games division, to be clear. So, and he just left in January.
Well, and Zaslav was Discovery originally, right? Like he was there.
Right.
He was the Discovery CEO that was brought in and made the head of the whole thing when they merged with the, you know, the HBO Warner Brothers conglomerate.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of cooks in the kitchen of corporate underperformance or incompetence.
And Haddad has not gotten favorable reviews from a lot of people over the years. And there's, especially in the wake of a lot of these layoffs, I've seen people coming out of the woodwork be like, yeah, this guy was basically mismanaging this company in a lot of ways. Yeah.
So anyway, we don't have this whole email in front of us, but Polygon did publish snippets of it. They refer to a disappointing 2024 as being one of the antecedents for this. About Wonder Woman, it quote no longer fell within what quote. Sorry, this quote is chopped up. I'm trying to place the word quote in the right place. It was not, quote, within our strategic priorities, is what they said about Wonder Woman. Apparently, they are going to try to reassign some of the people in these studios to other roles in the company, but it also sounds like some people have already just straight up lost their jobs. Fewer but bigger franchises is the strategy going forward. And I believe, was it this story? There's been a lot of stories. Yeah, here it is. Those 4 franchises are Harry Potter, DC, Mortal Kombat, and Game of Thrones. So that's Warner Brothers Interactive now.
With again, it probably worth putting a point on it. DC, meaning Batman.
Yeah, largely, though.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Wonder Woman just got cut. Although, so this other story, I'll just mention real quick. Like, this came out of some comic convention, I want to say, or some panel that James Gunn did recently in the last few days, where he talked about they have approached NetherRealm and Rocksteady about new DC Universe games. Like Rocksteady, we already heard that rumor from Schreier that they're doing a new single-player Batman or Arkham. NetherRealm, you can probably guess that means Injustice 3.
Or some other similar thing, right? Like, you know,
I mean, if you have an established brand, I feel like that's what you go back to.
Yeah, and I think that I've never played or cared about the Injustice games. I have nothing against them, but they do seem pretty popular from what I can tell.
You know, they're not what I want from NetherRealm necessarily, but like they're well-made games.
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, would you do an Injustice 3, or do you just do the Injustice like gun reboot right at this point and not carry all the other Injustice baggage with you?
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Who knows? Warner Brothers
seems like a fairly narrow portfolio going forward for them. But,
Scribblenauts.
I mean, they do the old one play at a time, you know, kind of a statement here of just like we have to rebuild our reputation one game at a time here. And I understand they're not wrong. When you have the last few years that they have had, like you do kind of have to reestablish your foundational games and properties and make them good and make people, you know, sort of reassociate your company as good. But right now, it just doesn't feel like when you say to me, Harry Potter is the cornerstone of what we are doing going forward, I cannot tell you how hard that repels me away from what you want to be doing.
Yeah. Like most of the stuff that we just listed is not really super in my wheelhouse, except for Mortal Kombat. So like, there's not much there for me. But like, even if there were, like these are all 20 to 30-year-old media franchises. You know,
there's nothing new here.
It's like just going to keep churning out the same branded stuff over and over.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like Mortal Kombat, probably the highest thing on that list. Though I'm very curious to see what a new Rocksteady Batman game is.
Yeah, like some of the DZ stuff will be for me, maybe a little bit, but yeah.
But the, you know, I don't know, Warner Brothers. I mean, you're not making any friends with me. Like, no. It's just like fucking Monolith, really?
That's the thing. Let's not bury the lead here.
Yes, that's the real story here. Man, they shut down Monolith. Holy shit.
Like
when we were talking about this stuff before, we were talking about like, hey, Warner Brothers is going to have to make some hard decisions here in the near future because this company is not doing well. I really thought on the outside here, like, more than likely that would mean selling off some properties. Mm-hmm. There would probably be layoffs associated with that, but like you could you're telling me that nobody wants a studio of Monolith's caliber? Yeah. They couldn't make that deal happen?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had glossed over this detail. I think it was Schreier. I tried to find who posted this earlier. It might have been a different writer I follow. I did not realize most of the leadership of Monolith had left since the last Middle-earth game, Shadow of War.
I mean, that game is years old, so I just assumed that, honestly.
Yeah, that came out in 2017, so it's been ages since they shipped a game. But this writer, whoever it was, actually, apparently most of leadership went to EA and started up Cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
What has Cliffhanger done?
I believe it was Cliffhanger that I believe this person used language like went to EA to start a new studio, but I assume it's Cliffhanger that they're talking about. Because I believe Cliffhanger is doing the Black Panther game. I hope I'm not getting this wrong.
That sounds right to me. But again, I ask me who's doing anything on those EA Marvel things.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, Cliffhanger at EA is doing the Black Panther game. And I assume that's where this person, I mean, you could look at LinkedIn and figure this out, but I think that's the studio they were talking about. Anyway, the bigger point there, though, is like, you know, a lot of the old timers at Monolith had moved on since their last shipped game. So like,
who was there?
Yeah, like
plenty of devs, you know?
right. But I mean, if there was enough dysfunction that they were having a hard time getting Wonder Woman together, maybe that makes selling the studio off harder, you know?
Yeah, maybe. But like, I guess, look, there's we talk about this a lot. Like, what is a studio when there is big transition, right? Like, what is the culture of a studio when that changes? All these things that happen, but they still own No One Lives Forever, I assume. They still own Fear. They still own, Shogo Mobile Armored Division.
I had to pull up the list of Monolith games. And like, first of all, I forgot Blood came out. I forgot Monolith made Blood. I don't know how I had forgotten that. Like, Blood was one of the other Build Engine games, which is the Duke Nukem 3D engine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Monolith straight up came out of like the Quake scene. Like Blood was a pretty notable 90s first-person shooter before they then went and made Shogo on their own engine. But like, they shipped, I just counted, they shipped 23 games in 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, Monolith was prolific. They put stuff out.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of those games are like pretty notable for one reason or another. Blood, Shogo, No One Lives Forever 1 and 2, Alien vs. Predator 2, Tron 2.0. I don't know how involved they were in Matrix Online. Was that just them Surely that was not just them.
I feel like there was a co-developer on that, but I don't remember like what the balance was for it.
Actually, no. Apparently, according to Wikipedia,
was it entirely them?
It was just them. I completely forgot they made Matrix Online. Fear, Condemned 1 and 2. Even Guardians of Middle-earth was not bad for in the middle of the MOBA land grab post League of Legends. Like Guardians of Middle-earth was actually decent, and then both of those, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War were both cool as hell. Monolith made a lot of very good games.
And this, but what is this? This is an illustration of the thing that we keep hearing over and over again of what the problems with AAA development are now. Like back in the day when Monolith was doing their thing, they could work on a schedule where they could put out games like, if not every year, then every other year at least. But AAA development has gotten so top heavy and so expensive. They went 8 years between when they last shipped a game and when they were eventually shuttered. Yeah. And whatever dysfunction you want to talk about with like Wonder Woman and whatever, like that's still probably years just to get to the point where the dysfunction happened because they had to build all that stuff, and it's so time consuming and money consuming to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that has to do with some behind the scenes stuff we're not privy to, like you said, like turnover and leadership change.
But it's crazy.
Yeah, it's bananas and sad,
and especially again for somebody like me who was like super into the Quake scene back when it, like Monolith was one of the studios. It was like there's like id and then Epic when Unreal came out, and then all these other satellite studios that spun off doing stuff, and like Monolith was like way up there as one of those like premier developers making first person shooters back then, not to mention all the other notable stuff they made since then.
Lithtech.
Lithtech. I mean, look.
It has good physics or fun.
Lithtech was fun to like cheerlead ironically a bit.
I know, but that now I can't do it. I mean, now it's just sad.
But also, I mean, I fucking love the No One Lives Forever games, especially too. Like they made so many different games that are very cool in their own right. It's
a bummer. And I, in addition to that, I just feel like Warner Brothers just feels ruthless at this point. Like it just has that vibe.
That's every corporation now, and always has been.
Well, every corporation is ruthless. Warner Brothers just feels like they're wearing it on their sleeve, right? Like they're just out there to. I don't know. Like if you have a job at Warner Brothers, I don't know. It seems like a frightening place to be.
Yeah. My fear is the climate that is developing. That's not going to be a rare thing soon.
And looking, we did this the couple of weeks ago when we were talking about that story originally, looking at their latest releases on their game pages, right, on Warner Brothers game page, and it just wasn't there. It was there, but like the games were not there.
Yeah.
And so what happened to, if you guys know, the Lord of the Rings stuff, it went to Embracer, right? They picked up some rights to doing Lord of the Rings, and Amazon has something. There's book rights and movie rights, and
there's
know it's
a lot of
fracturing.
I have given up trying to peel back exactly who's got what. Like I think Amazon's deal is directly with the Tolkien estate.
Okay.
But then
Embracer's got something because they made the
Frodo
group or whatever.
Yeah, Middle Earth and Friends.
yeah.
What's the name of that division? I'm still not clear exactly what their rights entitled them to.
Okay.
But fun times. Stephen Totillo went and did the work of digging up the Nemesis system patent.
Fabled Nemesis system.
While we're talking about Monolith. Expires in 2036.
The best, Alex, you'll probably appreciate. I feel like this is right in your sense of humor. The best response I saw to that on the Blue Sky post was the one right underneath it that says, "I also expire in 2036."
Yeah, I mean, yes. I came in here ready to say it'll be 11 years until anybody else can copy the Nemesis system, assuming we still have a functioning legal apparatus by then.
Yeah. Or something to plug the freaking console into the wall with, right? Like if power is coming into my house.
I'm not going to speculate that this is the only reason, but I have to imagine it probably gets a lot harder to offload that studio if you're not willing to give them the Nemesis system along with it.
That's such a bummer, dude. Like, that system was so goddamn cool, and I would have loved to see other developers copy and improve it.
That's the thing. It should have been lapped several times over by now, because other studios should have been able to iterate on the ideas behind it. But unfortunately, that patent system makes damn sure that will never happen.
It's not like there was anything magical about what they were doing. It was just a very good idea executed very well.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not like other people could not have figured that out and added to it.
I wonder if anybody would challenge this in a court to say, like, look, the concept, we're not doing technically what you're stating out in your patent, which is this hierarchies thing and, all of this technical stuff, but you cannot patent the concept of underlings working their way up a tree, right? Like,
you'd be amazed what the courts will recognize as something that is patentable. I mean, again, Harmonix had the patent on a specific kind of note lane in rhythm games, the one that is specifically the one you see in every Guitar Hero and Rock Band.
Yeah, remember Namco owned the patent on mini games and loading screens for a very long time?
That's true.
And I don't think you should be able to do any of this, by the way. That is my personal opinion, but
I think
you can.
Didn't Nintendo had patented the very specific D-pad? Cross form of D-pad they use, I think?
I think so. I have a question for the patent friends out there who I know there probably must be some people listening. If that patent runs out, does that mean you cannot patent it? Someone else can't patent it again?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Like, it is like, hey, this was once patented, which means you cannot patent a similar thing to it.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it would just be an arms race of people racing to the patent office to try to be the ones to refile first.
It's like renewing your domain name. You gotta go get it. That's kind of I mean, that's a great thing built into the system. I'm just shocked it hasn't been exploited.
Yeah.
Like, how have the corporations not figured that one out on the patent side when they have certainly figured it out on the copyright side, how to extend all that stuff. All right. That's Warner Brothers. It's a little coming in hot as well. Like we said, the reporting that we saw didn't necessarily get into explicit details on how many people are without jobs, how many people are being reshuffled around. It just sounds really messy. And of course, our sympathies go out there to anybody involved in this stuff. And for the brand of Monolith, obviously there's other studios too, but that one carries some weight there for let's just say an older generation of gamers out there.
I do have to say the player first thing is also just a little bit galling, because I really feel like that studio did what they were asked to do, which is take a completely disparate collection of properties and turn it into a completely competent Smash clone. Like, that's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah. That's for those who. That's the Multiverses.
That's the Multiverses game, which was a totally decent game. It was not
got
great,
the assignment, right?
But they did the assignment. They did what they were told to do, and then it seems like they got fucked over several different ways.
Yep. Okay. Moving on. We talked about Monolith, a fabled company, and now let's just talk about Fable.
Okay. All right. Fable has been delayed to next year. Is the top line here.
I forgot it was supposed to come out this year. I'm going to be honest with you.
I think it was a nebulous 2025, probably. I'm sure it was positioned to be their big holiday game. Will they have another big holiday game instead? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I generate a big holiday game for them.
Oh, boy.
Well, look, they've got Avowed out there.
Yeah. I mean, Avowed, Avowed is shaping up to be a pretty good tentpole game for Xbox for this year.
Yeah.
If that's the best they ship, I will be pretty happy with it. They still got a lot of other stuff, actually. Like, let's see. I have the list here in front of me. South of Midnight is coming soon.
Mm-hmm. That's like before the summer, right?
April.
Yeah.
Outer Worlds 2 is still listed for this year. Towerborn, Ninja Gaiden 4. That's all the stuff that is explicitly this year right now. That's not like a PS5 port or whatever. And they've got plenty of stuff that there's some possibility they could announce something else for later in the year, like State of Decay 3, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
They just had, this is their, not really related, but they just had their Idea at Xbox showcase stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know there's a Moonlighter 2?
No.
I did not know that.
I did not.
Cool. Did you know there's another Tron game? I feel like this had been announced. Tron Catalyst?
I think I did know that, yeah.
Is that the Biffle game?
Yes.
Okay.
I had totally forgotten about that one. Anyway, please continue with Fable.
Anyway, they delayed Fable, but they also showed some footage of it.
Yeah.
On, what is the name of this podcast? The Official Xbox Podcast, which is an in-house show, video show. They some pre-alpha footage, they describe it as. Like, it's just some clips basically interspersed into this podcast. But hey, at least we can like see somebody really playing Fable for real. Like, I know there were kind of some clips of that in a trailer, but
can I be honest with you about
yes.
this footage? It really feels like this is the B-roll someone was capturing for a like E3 trailer that is no longer coming because that game is not coming out this year.
Yeah, I can see it.
There's no UI on it.
Yeah.
But it does look like people fighting monsters in gameplay.
Yes, and some walking around in a city. It looks very nice.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah.
Like visually, like that shot in that big capital city looking thing. Like that is some detail.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting again, this is the first time Playground Games has made a thing that is not a Forza Horizon game, as far as I know. They have not done anything at this scale with this type of game before, so it's understandable that maybe this thing would take longer than they had planned for. The other thing, maybe I'm just completely perceiving this on my own, and maybe there's nothing actually to this. Does it feel like they're maybe trying to do a little bit of a Witcher 3 parody here?
Sure. I can see that. I can see that in the Fable part. I mean,
maybe, yeah.
Like, I don't mean like in a really obvious slapstick way, but like it feels a little bit like they are going for like, hey, here's the big grandeur of Witcher 3, and check it out, we're punting chickens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Or at least a little tongue in cheek on like the Witcher-esque games,
yeah.
Like the Witcher-esque games. Sure.
Like if that's a great thing to goof on if you were going for goofy RPG, which is what Fable ostensibly is. So like that's a very easy thing to hang your hat on. I'm not saying you have to go full on Naked Gun with it or anything, but I think that's a pretty easy touchstone. And
also a different angle than what Lionhead did.
Yeah.
Because you've changed developers now on top of being over a decade removed from the last Fable game. Like, I don't know if you can just do, like, Lionhead was such a weird singular developer. I don't know if you could just do exactly what they did again.
And I'm not sure that you should or should want to.
Like, that maybe something, because, like, I think of a lot of the Fable games and Lionhead in general, like, a lot of procedural nonsense, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Fable games had, like, some, like, algorithmic stuff going on with the morality stuff and the create a character and all that, you know? This looks more kind of hand-designed, you know? Especially if there's no character creator, which they still have not addressed in this, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Like, especially if this is still a, like, authored and named and voice acted character and not a create your own weird Fable person and let them evolve over the years kind of thing, Peter Molyneux nonsense. So, like, yeah, if they're going more in that direction, then something that is more of a, like Naked Gun seems like a good comparison for, like, a different angle they could take if they're going to go less emergent and more kind of written nonsense.
Yeah.
More Naked Gun, less Scary Movie.
Sure.
I mean, the first Scary Movie's all right.
It's pretty all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
By the time they get to like the fourth one, I was a little done with it.
It is right. It is funny you mentioned the Peter Molyneux nonsense, because I do feel like Lionhead DNA was a bit of that experimental. Hey, like what happens? Can you train a thing? Like what happens when systems get involved in this?
Yeah, because like Fable was a reverse departure for them, or the departure in the sense that they were making more of a mainstream like third-person action game when really all the Lionhead shit was like weird god games and simulations, you know?
Yeah, experiments.
Like it was all a lot of like weird systems-driven stuff, and then they kind of brought that sensibility to a third-person fantasy role-playing game.
Yeah. So yeah, the gameplay certainly looks nice for sure.
Yeah,
I think the lighting looks nice on that like werewolf or wolf like character, like the light from behind.
I think that was what it was
the
like
Witcher part,
like putting the sausages on the bear trap to fight the werewolf. It just had a little bit of that, like I'm hunting monsters, but also this is really goofy.
Oh, it certainly has a hunting monsters vibe to it for sure. Yeah. So this is pushed out, basically 2026, right? Like
subsist until 2026.
Yeah. I'm gonna say February.
Oh, that's like optimistic.
I'm gonna say March.
But also, actually, once you've gone into a new year, the sky's the limit on when you come out.
I was just gonna say that's basically late 2025, February.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, maybe it depends on what they're, like you mentioned earlier, how good they are with their cadence of other games, right? You don't want to get in the way of anything else. Because this is, I don't know, out of the things you mentioned, Brad, probably one of their top tier releases.
Yeah.
So
it has to be.
You put this in the best window, right?
I'd say it's like this, Perfect Dark, and Gears are the highest stakes releases they have on the board.
Yeah.
Not coincidentally, those are all the oldest franchises.
Think we get another Forza before this comes out?
I doubt it.
Yeah. I think we got a Forza on a PlayStation.
Is
this
mean,
launched on PlayStation?
Horizon is up next, technically, if they're still going in any kind of order.
Yeah. I think that, the word was they spun up a new studio for Fable, right?
Yeah, it's not just the same people that were making Horizon, so I think they are probably a 2-game studio at this point, but I don't know how far along Horizon 6, 7?
6.
6, okay.
One. 5 was Mexico. This game apparently is running on the Forza engine. I looked it up.
Oh, that's
wild. According to the Wikipedia refers to it as the Forza Tech engine.
That is an engine that does fidelity, so
yeah.
The cars look great in this.
Not wrong.
I look forward to this. I look forward to seeing some more, hearing some more about this. A lot of the things you brought up, Brad, I have the same questions about, like how many character choices do you have? Is it just kind of a more linear narrative game? Like what is baked into the Fable franchise and what is not, right? Like what are they willing to mess with here? But I guess we'll find out more in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft's not done yet.
They're just getting started.
Maybe we can play these old Fable games in another form. Huh?
Maybe.
Huh?
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Microsoft, I guess this is basically coming out of like Microsoft Research. Or let's say a division at Microsoft that produces things that are not yet ready for shipping products. Microsoft debuted a generative AI for gaming model in the last couple of weeks called Muse.
Which was part of Wham. Did you see that?
I missed that part.
Let me see if I can bring up what the Wham stands for again. They said World and Human Action Model.
Okay.
Wham.
Sure.
Which they've named Muse.
Yeah, like Muse seems to be a part of a bigger effort of, like, you see this floating around in more grassroots forums on social media here and there, like an effort to effectively generate interactive material, otherwise known as video games, purely from an AI model, training it on videos of games, like input data, all kinds of other stuff. I kind of mostly glossed over the announcement because, like, nothing they've shown makes it seem like it's ready for any kind of prime time, and also, like, who wants fully generated games anyway? I think nobody. But there was this one quote in here along with this announcement that actually kind of piqued my interest about using this model to help prop up their preservation efforts.
Okay.
Which is the thing that I thought was kind of interesting, but also weird and unsettling.
Fraught, shall we say?
Yeah, there's a couple of quotes in some of the like video materials that they put out. Here's like the more corporate quote from Gaming AI Corporate VP Fatima Kardar. Today, countless classic games tied to aging hardware are no longer playable by most people. Thanks to this breakthrough, we are exploring the potential for Muse to take older back catalog games from our studios and optimize them for any device. We believe this could radically change how we preserve and experience classic games in the future and make them accessible to more players. To imagine that beloved games lost to time and hardware advancement could one day be played on any screen with Xbox is an exciting possibility for us.
Any screen is an Xbox.
Yeah,
I have so many things I want to say to that thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that definitely is kind of a chilling quote, because I mean, the broad response to this immediately was like, wait, so you're saying you're going to, like, and I have to give props to Video Games Chronicle for using blinks in the thumbnail for the story, because if there's any old Xbox property that people want preserved, it's blinks. But the broad response to this was like, wait, so they're just going to use this model to generate a version of Blinks the Time Sweeper that people can play in the future? Like, that doesn't sound palatable in any fashion whatsoever.
But also probably sell to you, not
resell
to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bigger kind of financial point to get to with this. But there's this other quote from Phil Spencer about what they're talking about here that made me feel like I maybe understand a little better what they're going for with this. He says, you could imagine a world where from gameplay data and video, a model could learn games and really make them portable to any platform. I think that's really exciting. We've talked about game preservation as an activity for us, and these models and their ability to learn completely how a game plays without the necessity of the original engine running on the original hardware, I think opens up a ton of opportunity. Like, I think from that quote, it sounds much more like he's talking about like trying to train a model on, a bunch of data for a given game, and effectively like having it write a new engine for the game that is portable that would run the same as the original game and then feed the original assets into that.
So from what I can understand with this, what they did was they basically trained the model, and they trained it on, what was it, Ninja Theory's?
Which it was the Ninja Theory game I can never remember. Bleeding Edge. They trained this thing, and then they fed it like a second of gameplay with the inputs, and then they basically just fed controller inputs, and the AI generated what should happen frame by frame. Now, not in a game engine, from what I can understand, basically rendered the frames as video to be like, oh, here's what I think should here's what I think should happen with those controller inputs based on my training and based on what you just fed me 10 frames of data previously. Right. So I think these are two different things. I think what you're talking about is like purely generative, and what they're talking about here is effectively generating software that would run a classic game.
It's possible. They might just be talking about, there is a world where they're just talking about like generating the frame based on the controller inputs without a game engine TM behind it.
If that's what they're talking about, then no thank you.
Because that's some of what they have been talking about in terms of generative AI at NVIDIA, right? Like is hey,
that is
the
very
AI
much
can build the frame based off of data, not off of code.
And NVIDIA like research scientists have been talking about that since like 2018 and have demonstrated it as far back as like there's a clip on YouTube you can go find that they demonstrated in 2018 of a neural net generating a driving game at like 10 frames a second, but like they're driving around a city with visuals generated purely by machine learning.
So I think it is possible,
that's absolutely where some aspects of this are, if not where they're going, it's where they want them to go, if that makes sense. I don't know if they'll ever actually get there or not.
Which is also, this is, Brad, you could probably speak to this much more than I could, but it seems like even we talked earlier about the 5000 series, some of the hardware on there more geared towards that style of generating frames than piecing together a renderer, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, but backfilling code is what more you're talking about, right?
In the context of this specifically these quotes about game preservation,
I feel like it's muddying the water. Yeah,
I really hate using this as a prop-up for preservation.
I mean, even in the charitable interpretation of this that I'm trying to advance here, like it's still not preservation. Like,
no,
right?
Like, I mean, like you could even argue, like what I like in this too is that there's a pretty big effort these days to reverse engineer old games and get them running on newer platforms. Like that's how I played through Fallout 1 on stream last year, was with the Fallout 1 Community Edition, which was just, I mean, in this case, it wasn't an AI model. It was just some dude,
right,
who reverse engineered the first Fallout and wrote a new engine basically from scratch, as far as I know, which is now cross-platform. So you can play Fallout on your iPhone or a Nintendo DS if you want. And I gather that sounds more like what Phil Spencer is talking about here. Or like another good example is if you know the YouTuber Modern Vintage Gamer, he ran a pretty good video about somebody reverse engineering the original Diablo. If you kind of want to go watch a 15-minute breakdown of what was involved in that. So it kind of sounds more to me like that's what Phil Spencer was getting at with this, of like,
it's possible.
If we could have this thing spit out a program that can take the original graphical assets and, level designs and everything and just run it on other platforms. Even that's not preservation though. Like
from a code base, right? Yes,
that is more ideal. How you QA and test that and make sure it's actually the real game, I have no fucking idea. Even if you do that, that's not preservation though.
No. And also, a lot of the games we're talking about here, not exclusively, but a lot of the games we're talking about here, the ones that are sort of the ones that are most at risk of basically never being preserved, are not being preserved because of technological issues, but because of licensing issues. They are games that where ownership stickiness makes it more of a problem to get those things on other platforms, to make them accessible to people. There aren't, yes, there's work that has to be done to get especially old PC games and any kind of old console thing that wants one kind of hardware and now has another to face. But that work can be done and has been done many times over the years. It's like, to me, you're talking about solving a problem that isn't really the problem here when it comes to game preservation. And I think, to me, this still just reads like, look, our mandate is AI. We're doing AI stuff. This is what we figured out what to do with AI because our company is making us do this.
Could be. I mean, this is so nebulous, and
it's incredibly nebulous.
Having something spit out the code versus having something just generating frames based on what they think, or even just having something that is recreating the experience. I think fundamentally we all agree it just does not feel like preservation.
It's not the same thing as preservation.
No, and I think that's the big point. I think
you're creating something that is too fundamentally different from the original.
Yeah, now
you're porting it. Like you could argue that like the scenario I was describing is a different version of porting a game, but even that I feel like is maybe a stretch.
Where now if we get these field programmable gate arrays powerful enough to mimic your original Xbox, and then we put the original source code from the game and then just release that. Now we're talking.
So amusingly enough, re-implementing stuff in FPGA is a place I have seen people talk about AI assists becoming necessary very rapidly.
To basically flip the right gates for these chips.
Like everything I've seen out of the Mr. community is basically them saying that like, hey, past about the PlayStation and N64 era, those chips are so complex to re-implement that it's like not practical or reasonable to expect a human to do it. Like they from kind of PS2 on, the chips got so much more complicated that like you're not going to see that done by hand by hobbyists anymore.
I don't know, man. Humans always blow my expectations, whether they're good or bad, out of the water. I remember when the N64 couldn't be done, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
somebody did it.
That was a case of limitations of the hardware. If you look straight up just at the number of the increase in
I believe it,
transistors from the N64 to the PS2, it's like orders of magnitude.
I believe it. Yeah, it's I mean, like Microsoft is. You're right, Alex. Microsoft is all in on big money on AI, and they definitely capital M Microsoft sees that as the future of everything right now.
Yeah. I mean, we're still in a phase where, like in the business world, you have to be here because if this thing actually does hit and you weren't there, with like if you're caught with your pants down and you did not have an AI strategy and it turned out that it really was the next big thing, like you're done.
Yeah.
But the likelihood of it actually being the next big thing seems extremely in question.
Sure does. All right, moving on. I will say, just in terms of the technology, as terrifying and the implementation I don't agree with. It's kind of fascinating what people are trying to do with it, but so is like learning new ways to murder people. So I'm not saying like I agree with what's going on here, but
there was some fascinating nuclear science in the Manhattan Project too.
Right, exactly. And I still believe in making sure that when we talk about this stuff, it gets tough for AI being the umbrella term for machine learning and all sorts of things in there. But if you're generating frames for Blink's a Timekeeper and saying that's game preservation, I don't know if I can go down this road. And I'm not even a big Blinks fan. You deserve better.
There are none.
Blinks deserve better. All right, that's Microsoft, Muse, and Wham. Bloober Team. Is Bloober Team's not a punching bag anymore?
No.
Well, look, the medium still sucks, but it seems like they absolutely pulled it out with Silent Hill.
Yeah, like I honestly just put the story in here because Vinny and a lot of other people seem to really like that Silent Hill 2 remake.
I did really like that Silent Hill 2 remake.
Now Bloober Team has announced that they have signed back on with Konami to make another game with one of their classic franchises, although the wording, it's hard to say. A new game based on Konami's IP. Like that could just be another Silent Hill.
Yes.
It could. Or it could be something else.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you? I mean, the easy money is on another Silent Hill,
right? Probably. I don't know how that thing sold, but it's certainly had pretty good word of mouth from what I saw.
I had to go look up their that other game that was mentioned in that article, Chronos, the New Dawn that Bloober Team is working on. Still, I think no date on that. That game looks kind of cool. Do you guys remember that reveal trailer or anything?
Remotely?
Not particularly.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, looking at this, I believe so.
Yeah, it was like the Big Daddy looking dude. in the suit. That game kind of looks cool. Like, I want to play that game.
That actually looks all right. Anyway, start your speculation. What else could Bloober Team make?
What else?
Konami's IP.
What else? Bloober Team.
Konami, I don't really know, honestly.
Is Konami allowed to make more Metal Gear games?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They are. They're making one right now. I mean,
Konami, they're in charge of a Metal Gear game that based around the origins of Psycho Mantis. Psycho Mantis in the early days, it's a side story. Metal Gear Solid Gaiden, Psycho Mantis. You know what? I think I just convinced myself that could be all right.
Yeah, sure.
Metal Gear Solid Gaiden, but do the side stories from all the bosses, like how they came up. Don't make them huge games. Make them like 20-hour games. And have unique gameplay attributes.
Would you want not Kojima doing that though?
Ideally, not. But I would want the person who envisioned those characters doing it. But take what you can get. This is the world we live in, Brad. This is how I got every day.
I don't know why this news got me thinking I kind of wouldn't mind another stab at a 3D Castlevania from somebody.
Sure.
Because I feel like nobody has ever really made that work.
What? I bite your tongue.
Sorry.
No, those games are fine. Well, the first one is fine.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was not as great.
Like maybe get away from character action. Like
Bloober Team.
What if Castlevania was a little more Dark Souls-y or something, or a little more survival horror-ish?
Yeah,
maybe not like full-on survival horror, but like maybe I don't want to square triangle my way through a 3D Castlevania game. Like maybe make it a little more brooding and slower paced somehow.
Okay,
I don't know.
They're not going to do Contra.
No.
Contra. Do they still do? Was it Winning 11? What's Konami's soccer game?
Do they still do that game?
I don't know what happened with those games. Actually,
is that the name of them? I can't remember.
In Japan, it was Pro Evolution Soccer.
Oh, Pro
Evo.
Is
like when I think of Konami, I mostly think of action games and shooters. Like and Silent Hill. Like those are the things I think of. They must have some other survival horror franchise. I don't know what it is though.
Maybe they're making a new Gradius.
Okay.
Make a new Gradius.
I'm listening.
Bloober Team. I don't know.
Blades of Steel.
Sure. Yes. Now we're talking.
I'm looking through a list now. Okay. Wait, are these all Konami? Is Zone of Enders Konami?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Kojima worked on that.
Okay.
To a degree.
Is Bomberman Konami?
Yes. No, that was Hudson.
Okay. Why do they have a Super Bomberman on their page here? Suikoden?
God, right. Yeah.
And that's it. That's all the Konami games.
Yeah, I can't think of it. Honestly, I just don't know.
It's Silent Hill.
It's probably another Silent Hill.
I'm just saying if it was something else, I wouldn't know what it is.
But
Castlevania's a good one.
Kind of got me thinking. I wouldn't mind seeing a new take on Castlevania.
Yeah. Oh, look, Lords of Shadow's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, but it's been a long time since those games.
I know, because the second one killed the franchise, but it was fine. It was fun. Remake Lords of Shadow with Bloober Team. I just like that Bloober Team connected with the ball in a mainstream way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I don't root for them to fail.
No, nobody does, really. I hope not. But I also think that Chronos game looks pretty fun. Or it looks atmospheric in a way.
That does look all right.
For sure. Seems all right. Yeah, speculation starts now. We'll find out in 7 years.
Yep.
They turn games around. They'll probably announce something. All right. That it for the news?
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
We've got an email address here. The email address, podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. We started recording these a little earlier in the day, and I feel like there's a natural clock that lets me know when the podcast is about over, and now we're just stretching out the podcast to reach that natural clock ending point.
Weird. Somehow, as soon as we moved the podcast recording time up, we started recording longer podcasts.
Yeah. There's something going on here, or maybe it's just that much stuff going on.
We'll dial it in.
The email address, podcast@nextlander.com. Brad.
Yeah, Jacob from New Orleans. This actually came in before the Monolith news, but it's extra appropriate now. Listening to you guys lamenting that we have not seen another version of or reuse of the Nemesis system, it made me wonder what settings would work best with it. What games would you want to see that sort of thing implemented in? He lists a couple of examples here. A pirate or ship combat game like Assassin's Creed 4, sailing around and having the game build custom and unique pirate captains with various weaknesses and combat preferences. You could recruit underlings to assassinate and mutiny the other captains. The other example, a Mafia-style game where local bosses and leaders could be generated and picked off one by one.
Oh, yeah, that's...
What's your dream scenario? Before I even read this full email, a Mafia-type game,
sure,
like an organized crime game, was immediately the first thing I thought of.
100%.
So, for me and for others out there that want to maybe just loosely define the Nemesis system, you have a hierarchy of bosses, basically, right? And the underlings have the opportunity within the Nemesis system to work their way up to be the big boss, right? That's the general conceit.
Yeah, really what it is kind of a templating system where you kind of have a bunch of archetype characters and you can kind of mix and match attributes onto them to create sort of generated unique characters.
But in the background, they are having a conflict, right? Like they're like, oh, yes, this one has taken on the role.
There is
like
a rivalry
mid-boss
happening there.
Yeah, I mean they have physical attributes, they have like inclinations, then they start building grudges over time. You know, they take injuries, you know, or like like lose capabilities, lose an eye or whatever over time.
This one's afraid of fire.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it was just really well executed in those games. Like the key was that you basically never saw repeats through an entire playthrough.
Yeah.
Like you would not see the archetypes getting remixed. Like I'm sure they had logic on the back end going like, okay, don't use the bard archetype again. We already used that one. So like it all felt very organic, even though it was clearly like mechanical in nature. So like you could definitely do a bad Nemesis system and have the whole illusion just collapse.
But I think a crime bosses thing, like a Mafia-esque thing, that's a good one.
Totally.
Good.
I think anything that has a setting where the characters are very flamboyant is kind of
sure.
If not crucial, it definitely really helps to have like pirates are a great example. You know, there's like there's a lot of like missing limbs and eyes and weird hats and you know they're all a bunch of scumbags.
A lot of flair.
Yes, so like you can mix and match in very outsized cartoonish ways. Like if it was like, I mean, what's a more mundane setting? Like if it was just a bunch of like dudes in suits all the time. Of course, I guess that's kind of what a Mafia.
I mean,
setting
think of like a Dick Tracy thing, you know, where it's like there's an outsized caricature of these different, you know, gangsters and mobsters and what have you.
But I guess what I mean is if the setting and like the visual treatment is very mundane, I think it would be a lot harder to make a Nemesis system type thing work.
But like what about like an office simulator where all the your coworkers all have these weird traits and you're just trying to rise up
just
through
these
the
petty
company.
rivalries with all of them.
But even then, what I mean is even there you have to make the setting a little cartoonish.
Yeah.
Like you really need some like very larger than life attributes on the mixing and matching to.
Yeah. Alex, you look very excited.
Yeah, because I got an idea.
Okay.
It's the one I've always kind of bandied around the idea. I mean, it doesn't work exactly as an open world thing necessarily, but what about a pro wrestling game?
Sure.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's a drag and drop right there. That's plug and play.
Dude, that makes extreme sense.
Like the most sense. Flamboyant, weird caricatures, like all of it.
Rising up the ranks, like
imagine if 2K
rivalries.
gotten a hold of that shit at some point. Imagine how much better those WWE 2K games would probably be at this point.
Yeah, sure. That sounds kind of. I don't even care about wrestling, and that sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to make sure I've got the right game. This kind of reminds me like something like a spy kind of setting, maybe.
Oh, sure. Like
or
a Bond, even like a Bond thing, like, you know, the different kinds of weird henchmen and criminal organizations.
Yes. Like it almost reminds me of Mercenaries, that Pandemic game, remember?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Like their Deck of 52 or whatever it was called, where they had like the spy or the kind of terrorist leaders you were fighting or whatever. Like something in that space could work.
How about space trucking? Where you're just you're part of a what about Wing Commander and then replace that whole list with the Nemesis system.
A bunch of generated Kilrathi.
No, I was saying on your own side. Remember you had like Iceman and all the other people on your own team. Every time you play, you're like you don't want this one as a co-pilot because they get chilly or whatever. I don't know.
And like kind of like we said earlier about the patent discussion, it's not like we need other developers to just do the Nemesis system endlessly. What they needed was the ability to play around in that space,
to evolve and iterate on it. Yeah,
like what they needed was the opportunity to try it for themselves, and somebody like maybe maybe the shipping Nemesis system we saw was actually just the prototype version of what somebody would have come up with that was actually the like industry changing thing that people came around on. I don't know.
Oh man, why couldn't like I know they didn't invent it, but like Borderlands or something have patented that all that loot, all that generated loot, so that could have been out of games, and we could have just had bespoke loot, and then nobody could make no more generated a flaming sword of the whatever. You can't do it anymore. They put the patent on it.
Yeah,
because I'm maybe a little sick of loot in general.
See the pendulum swinging back though. You know, like Avowed is a great example. Like they didn't do that, and they didn't do that style of loot. They still put colors on it though.
That's right.
That's right. Don't they, the colors
I
still
want
go
my
through
fine spear?
Like, don't they still go through the green, blue, purple cycle as you?
As far as I can tell,
quality.
I couldn't afford that fine spear. A common spear for me. Got another email.
Here's another relevant one that's been kicking around for a little while from Danny in Buninyong, Australia.
Okay.
Have you guys ever been tempted to see just how much gold your Fable 2 character has accumulated over time?
Is that still going?
Do you remember what that was about? Is that something that could still be running?
Fable 2 is the one I spent the least amount of time playing, so I don't really remember what this is about.
Do your coffers continue?
I was hoping Vinny would remember this because you played a lot of Fable 2.
I vaguely remember this. I did play a lot of Fable 2. Do they follow up and say they check theirs or
that was it?
Okay. I'm curious.
Hang on, I'm looking around. It looks like they may. So there is a way to earn gold when you're not playing that game. It looks like they may have capped that ability.
Okay, like 50,000 gold.
Yeah, that you can only get so much while you're not playing the game, unfortunately.
Oh,
so
bummer. All right.
Sadly, you will not have 17 years worth of gold built up.
Well, so I can't take that into the new Fable. I can't import that.
Apparently
import
not.
that in. Bummer.
Boo.
Nice try. Try.
Yep.
Anything else in the email department?
Like you said, we're running a little long. Tucson Ted wrote in some weeks ago asking grapes or raisins.
Grapes.
Let's say you can only have one, I guess.
If I can only have one, grapes.
Really?
Oh, man.
That's like raisins.
I like raisins.
It's like too complicated a question.
I like grapes, but raisins are so versatile. Like if I'm eating a grape, I'm just eating a grape. That's it.
One grape?
No, but I mean, like,
I'm kidding.
I'm not like cooking with grapes.
Like maybe they're raisins, on a charcuterie board, but that's generally it.
Like raisins go in so many things that enhance the thing they're going in a way that grapes do not.
I'm kind of with you. This is a little situational dependent. I got to pick one though. I might go with raisins. They just last a little longer.
I think grapes taste better.
Grapes are
raisins,
awesome.
Yeah, grapes.
Raisins are. You're right. They're incredibly versatile. I eat Raisin Bran. I'm not above it, but I'm just saying cinnamon raisin bagel. I'm all for it. But like, I just think I get more pleasure from eating a grape than I do a raisin.
I agree with you. I do too, but I just think it's the versatility of the raisin where you can put them in a bag in your pocket. You can bring them with you.
But we all agree in this scenario, all wine is poison, right?
I'm not the biggest wine fan. Sure,
I'm not answering you. All
wine is now poison. If you have to pick one of these, one form of grape where you can eat it, then I'm saying that like all wine at this point is now poison.
No.
Oh, I thought you just meant that's how you live your life.
Oh, I thought you hate wine.
I mean, I don't love wine, but I feel like at this point you're basically saying that like there is one form of grape that is edible.
And the rest is now poison. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, my you know how they basically. I'm not gonna say it's the science du jour. I don't know what's going on with science anymore. Nobody does. Nobody can tell. But you know the jury is basically like, hey, look, there really is no healthy amount of alcohol, right? Like all alcohol.
It's all poison to a degree.
Well, there used to be like have a glass of wine a day.
There was all that like, oh, the French have no heart disease because they drink red wine.
And like, like this might be good for you. But it seems like the current science is like basically like, no, actually any alcohol, whatever. So, we have like NPR running in the background a lot, and these stories infiltrate my kids' heads. Anytime I go to have a glass of wine or a bit of alcohol, my daughter is now like, what? Are you going to die? I'm like, look, no, I'm just having a glass of wine. Like, why would you do this to us and to everybody?
That's probably not the worst attitude to cultivate.
I guess, but it's a little like, there are people like you in the 20s who ruined America.
It didn't last long.
You can take your teetotaling ass out of here, okay? I'm going to go have my glass of wine and relax in a corner. Everything in moderation.
Yep.
Everything is poison, technically.
Everything is poison, technically. All right. That's going to do it for the emails.
Yep.
And that's going to pretty much do it for the show. Sorry, I'm bringing back up my notes here. Yes, indeed. I've checked my notes. I'm hearing my earpiece. That's going to do it for the show. We got a bunch of stuff going on here. We have wrapped up recording on our Con is On Watchcast. That means we are moving on to the next phase. Alex Navarro, what do we have coming up?
So this is probably one of the loosest assemblages of a category we've ever done. We called it weird-ass dystopian cities. Let's be real. They're not all the same kind of dystopia or necessarily related to one another, but they fit the category well enough, and these are all just movies we wanted to do.
Yeah, I think it's a good category. Don't undersell it. I think it's a strong category.
Look, some people are very adamant about the rules of the category, some are less so. I'm very loosey-goosey about it as far as I'm concerned.
The theme, let's say.
The theme, yeah.
Yeah. So
but
what
not
do
the quality of the movies.
Have we announced what's up first? If folks want to get ready.
Oh, I mean, we announced all of them on the Parasite podcast, so I'm perfectly happy saying them here. The one next week is Brazil, the Terry Gilliam film, and then after that we are going to do The Warriors. We are going to do City of Lost Children, and we are going to do Dark City.
There you go. And that schedule will be up on the Nextlander, Patreon at some point. So check that out with the Watchcast. The Mike Mahardy thing, the Total Warhammer thing should be kicking off next week with the Vinny and Mike Save the World over on the Fire Escape Patreon, and then Vinny and Mike Destroy the World over on the Nextlander Patreon the week after. And like I've said before, those will go back and forth, and those are just a little treat. I'm just having some fun with Mike there. So hopefully if you're on either of those Patreons, you enjoy those, or maybe you'll go explore a new one, or maybe you'll be on both. Who's to say? It's your choice. Everything in excess. That's what we just said. It's just
absolutely.
Spend your money on everything and overdo it. So that's happening next week. That'll be kicking off, like I said, over on Fire Escape with the good campaign, and then on Nextlander the week after, the evil campaign. We got Never Been a Better podcast this week coming up on Friday. That one was recorded a little bit ago, so it's it has aged somewhat like a fine wine. This wine is not poison, but it was one of those things where the recording date had bled so far into the month, I just had to record two of them back to back to reset a bit before it got too late in the month to record. So now we're back on schedule. So
now you can remember the before times.
Yeah, that's right. So this one was actually recorded almost like 3 weeks ago, I think, ish. So that'll be going up this Friday, and then we just recorded what is it? Would be March's.
It will be the March one,
yesterday. So we're back on a schedule where these can hit a little bit easier. That'll be on the Patreon as well. Tons of stuff on the old Patreon. Tons of fantastic Ramblecast.
It's all happening.
Planorama for next week. We got Patron's Choice coming up where you can go vote. It seems like maybe we might be doing that Dark Souls 3 mod, but maybe we'll be doing some Monster Hunter.
Seems like Dark Souls I'm excited to try that thing. That thing seems dumb.
I am too. I'm a little nervous that the whole thing just might break.
Yeah, that mod definitely is like, hey, this thing's alpha. It's not like, don't expect a bug-free experience, but like it is a mod that you found that is just full on. How many people does it accommodate?
5, I think.
Up to 5 people in Dark Souls 3, just start to finish from minute 1 through the end of the game.
I did see a thing. I was reading it, and I was like, somebody frequently asked question was like, "Hey, so this is just like kind of make Dark Souls 3 trivial when you have
absolutely 100%."
But the response was, it makes it very different because loot and all these things that are tuned for one person.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Now become not. I think. Yeah.
If you're playing it seriously, which we definitely will not be, but like you would probably want everybody to do like completely different classes and builds, right? Just because, like you said, there's only one of each weapon in the game, so you can't have 2 people going for the same sword.
I really have no idea how this is going to go.
That's wild. I didn't even think about that.
I actually don't know because I never played Dark Souls 3, so this will be great.
Better way to try it out than in a broken, weird-ass way.
I can't wait to find out if there's friendly fire.
That sounds scary, too. So that might be happening on Friday. Poll is still up. Again, over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Nextlander. Bunch of different tiers there that you can jump into. Find a tier that fits your lifestyle. There is one tier there, though, that gets their names read on this year's show, and it's the Mysterious Benefactors tier. I'm going to read those names right now. Starting with Sean Miller, RRE, Alpha Rhythm, Infelicitous Rips, David L, Kelly F, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, NXL Retirement Fund, Asterix, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deidre Plays Monster Hunter Now, I guess, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, Buddy Crimes enthusiastically recommends next.content.town, Jad Rita, Statics, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Randy, way behind on podcasts and now afraid to make novelty usernames, Alderson, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, Jacques Strap, Tyler Treese. Those are our Mysterious Benefactors for this week.
Jacques Strap.
Jacques Strap. Getting spicy out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's spicy time.
Listen,
spicy time.
Why hold anything back at this point? Who knows if we're going to be around the next day?
That's true. True. Live every day like it's your last Mysterious Benefactor shout out is what I say.
Staring down, just making a decision about doing some business travel soon and thinking, is it worth it to get on an airplane? I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Right now. Maybe not.
Did you see another near miss? I mean, like
three more. It's like three more this week.
They happen all the time. I always go to like the Reddit aviation because they are the ones who can pull. They're on it immediately to be like, okay, here are the logs, here's the voice, here's what really happened here. Man,
it's not good.
I don't know. Yeah, it in caps. It put that in my Print Shop Pro and print it on paper, and I will put it across the top of my garage. It ain't good. It ain't good. But you know what's good? Playing through Lost Records, Rage and Bloom with you and Abby. Playing through Void Crew, Brad, with you and Will. It's been a lot of fun. Going on Friday and maybe playing this multiplayer Dark Souls 3 thing if this works. Watching Brazil to go record the Watchcast.
Yeah, that's an upbeat movie.
Upbeat utopian cities. That's what you said, right?
Yep, utopian.
Yeah. Can we just do 6 months of romantic comedies after this?
That's right. Just some rom-coms. Just some Christmas rom-coms. You can catch all of that stuff I just mentioned. That's all happening this week. Keep your wits about you, folks. Watch out there. The world's hanging on.
Don't eat any bad grapes.
Yes, that's right. But eat great raisins. Thank you. It's the raisin for the season.
All right.
Okay.
The raisin Detra.
There you go. Thank you very much, Alex Navarro.
Thank you
very much, Brad Shoemaker. We'll be back next week.